pretty realistic lighting and stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's get it going. I think we've got enough people, you and me.
Yeah, well, we'll run it. I mean, people say they're going to show up a little later, but we'll see.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Good evening. And this is Smudcast number 58. We're taking on Just Right again. And a very popular topic for the past week and a bit is The Last of Us Part 2. In case you don't know, The Last of Us Part 2 is a sequel to the 2013 Naughty Dog game, The Last of Us, with a story in a post-apocalyptic zombie adventure where what does he call a runner? Is he called a scavenger? What is Joel? Joel is he's a bootlegger.
He's a smuggler.
He's a smuggler. There you go. And he loses his daughter in the first 10, 15 minutes of the story, and he adopts essentially a surrogate daughter, and we discover this daughter has the cure to the virus that is plaguing all of mankind, and a lot of adventures go along, and eventually he decides to save her life in comparison to having risked it on the hope that there would be a cure to this zombie plague. And that's kind of the whole point, or the whole beginning of The Last of Us Part 2 and the conflicts therein. Everything is focused on that ending of the first game, which is a fine way to start a story. The problem is the storytelling technique that Naughty Dog has employed isn't for everyone, and it's a hard sell. And I don't know why a writer would ever want to make their job harder for them unless they know exactly what they're doing. And sadly, this is not the case. So Just Right will tell us why he likes it. And if you don't know Just Right, he's a very, how to describe Just Right? He's very subjective. He's very,
I don't even know at this point.
It's hard.
Off the rails for me.
It's hard. He's good at sometimes, then he's absolutely bonkers the next. And
yeah, that's been my problem. He's steadily gone towards like storytelling doesn't have rules, or whatever it is that he's trying to push now. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what his point is. Like, why does he make videos at this point aside from revenue? Is it because he's got a message? What do you think the message of his stuff is now? I like this thing. I like that thing. It's okay to like things. I don't know.
It's Skillshare essentially. It's like, I'm not smart enough, but you could be if you just join Skillshare. So that's pretty much
right.
it.
Shilling education of pseudo education.
Well, I don't know what the actual course is on Skillshare specifically. I think it's a generic subscription, so maybe there are some good courses there. But it's like even the popular channels I've noticed that have, or the good channels that do a lot of analysis, have affiliates in their videos, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not against people making money on YouTube. It's just that's the main reason why they're doing it. And I have affiliates on my channel. I have it in my description, but I don't want to sell you something while I'm on the line with you. I think that's detracts from a few things. The same way I think super chats detract from our conversation, but I don't mind them because you guys are involved. So that's why I want to read them as soon as they come, so you don't feel bad. So let's do that, and then we'll get started. So, John Lemley, thank you, sir. I love seeing spoiler alert at the beginning, as if there's any story to spoil. You know what? I still get pissed. People get pissed off because I don't say that in all my videos, as if, oh, by the way, guys, the game's been out, for a while. What are you waiting for? Like, a paycheck? Like, what's going on? Why are you on YouTube? A big giant social media program where everyone communicates. It's a silly thing. So, Mad Courier 6, thank you, sir. Evening, Smud. Have you heard that Amazon is producing a Fallout TV's? Really?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it. I saw the trailer for it, which is basically just like a loading screen. You can check it out.
That can go either way. That could be great. That could be amazing, or it could be a pile of garbage.
Knowing how Fallout has been treated for 10 years now? 9 years. I don't think that it's going to be very good, but yeah, could be good. I don't know. Like, I don't think that people even recognize what made Fallout 1 or 2 or New Vegas even good anymore outside of the fan base. Like, people that get hired to do it don't seem to hit on the same notes.
I always say my favorite PC game was Fallout 2. And even though I've played great PC games, my favorite game of all time is still Planescape Torment, of the same style almost. But there's something special about Fallout 2 that just works and it is a great continuation of the first game. Whenever you think of a sequel, you think of bigger and better, more refined, more options, and that's kind of what The Last of Us 2 is like. It's bigger and better for sure, to its detriment at times. But yeah, Fallout 2 was always the crowning jewel for me. And when 3 came around, I was like, oh my god, this is a great idea. Even though the story, as the premise sounded fantastic. Find your dad, he's going to cure the wasteland of water purification, what have you. But it was kind of lackluster in execution with a lot of bombastic things and silly things. But
I just I don't think it's going to be good because it's done by Kilter Films, so it's the people behind Westworld. It's going to be synth garbage. I feel like if Bethesda has a story elements, it's going to be bad. And I just know that the protagonist isn't going to be anything like any of the protagonists that I've ever played as. It's going to be a run that's just going to, it's going to be like, I feel like, and, I could be wrong, but like the idea of Fallout 4 where you go in there and you got Sturgis over here and you have Preston and Garvey, I feel like the main characters are going to be like that. And it's just going to be like a, trying to establish a new place or something. And it's going to be really reference heavy. And it makes me anxious. I can't imagine that it's going to turn out the way that people that like the original stuff are going to be fans of, or New Vegas fans. I don't see it happening.
It's possible, but if the Westworld guys are doing it, at least there's some sort of pedigree that you could fall back on and say, okay, they've done Westworld. That's not too dissimilar. It's not a horrible series. It's got some moments. I've seen a few episodes. I thought they were very well done. They got some good actors. They got some writing there. I haven't seen beyond the first season, so I only saw a few. So I don't know how it develops. But as far as a science fiction goes, I thought it was decent. And
it's probably going to be written by Jonathan Nolan, so that's making me nervous because that's Dark Knight Rises, that's Interstellar, and visually they're good movies, but then writing, it's always logically a little... There's like the resolution of those stories doesn't make sense, and some of the choices don't make sense either. Like, how all the policemen go into the tunnels. That doesn't make any sense. And then Interstellar, it's like the power of love, and they go into a black hole and they come out behind someone's library or bookshelf or something. It's really stupid. So I'm concerned. And then just in general, to me, the idea of taking something that is supposed to have multiple endings and making it definitive really makes me nervous. So unless they do like a Bandersnatch thing where people can choose what ending they want, I'm going to be really frustrated.
Yeah, I would not expect that. That's more of an experimental form of entertainment. Yeah, that's tough to say. I see what you're saying, though. Fallout is about choice, so that's a good point. Yeah. All right.
But I don't have I don't have information on it.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, the first time I've heard of it, it must have been news just released today, so that's news to me. Great. I'll be sure to check it out, though. Tom the Cat, thank you, sir. Oh boy, just right. I'll put the popcorn on. You're right there with me. I just don't like him getting in my teeth, so I have to only drink water here, sadly. Mad Courier 6, Fallout 2 Buddy Smud. All right. You a Bozar man or a Gauss rifle man? I am a Bozar man. That is the best gun in the game as far as I'm concerned. It's an automatic sniper rifle with, I think it's 223 or one of those really high-end ammo uses. And you just stockpile that. And you stockpile it because you want to save it up till you get that gun. And then it's like an auto. You just like, boom, boom, boom. You're gone. Everything just gets mowed down. Yeah. And the Gauss rifle is way too hard to find ammo for anyway.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to think about it. So much potential. I don't want to see it squandered.
I know. Same with Fallout 76. We thought it was going to be amazing. And sadly, what the heck? How can you screw that up? If they bring up the people from Black Isle to do the writing, then I'd be impressed. I'd be really impressed. Go 20 years back, or 22 years back, and go, all right.
Don't get my hopes up.
Chris Avalone? All right. Okay, it's a possibility. It might work. I don't know.
Don't get my hopes up.
John Lemley, thank you, sir. Idea I've had in my head for about a year that I'd be curious about is a Mass Effect or KOTOR-like X-Men game Oh, I know what you're talking about. X-Men games. Okay, with Arkham-style combat, where you would create your own character and choose your path. Oh, wow, that you're going like into the whole what is that MMO with superheroes that got canceled and brought back by the fans, but in the
City
massive
of Heroes.
City of Heroes or City of Villains, one of those two.
There was a couple of those.
Okay, well that's the idea. So you build your own hero based off, are they supernatural, are they technological, are they magic, etc. But this is within Mass Effect or KOTOR and Arkham style combat. That's a lot of customization for a premise. Like when you talk about game design, you talk about three things you should do in a game, and those are your three selling points. So right now you've got all of that stuff lined up. So you got Arkham style combat, you've got character creation, and then you have the setting of KOTOR or Mass Effect or something like that. So that's like you're done. That's as far as you go for imagination, and the rest would just be killing yourself trying to develop that thing and trying not to feature creep, because that's a lot of ideas you just slam together. If it was like one of those ideas, like Arkham style combat with Mass Effect or with this franchise, then you're like, all right, we can play with that. And then you could allow your designers to, or developers to make something specific to the gameplay. But yep, those are all fun things to dream about there. Lenny the Shark, I want to try one of these Fallout games for the first time. Should I go with 3 or New Vegas? That's a good question. Where do you start with Fallout? Everyone always goes to the favorite. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say New Vegas because it's like Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 might be too.
Yeah.
What's the word for it?
Antiquated.
It's not opaque. Yeah, antiquated is a good way to look at it. It's isometric, so it feels outdated. New Vegas almost feels modern, but it gives you enough immersion and enough of the old school combined.
New Vegas has the right vibe. It's got the right feeling, because not only is there a solid plot that you can focus on, so as standalone it's great, but it has so much other content, so much custom mods and DLC that just adds to exploring this colorful world that you just want to keep going back into. So I would say start with 3 though, just because
I can't stand 3. Starting with 3 seems like a really bad way to start off with it.
The reason why is
I was just gonna say I recently started a playthrough of it, and I realized like you can just like walk in a straight line one direction, then you walk in a straight line the other direction, then you go back. To complete the main story, it's really really simple, and it feels a lot emptier than almost any of the other ones in a way that it's like it's not that it's empty thematically, it feels like it's empty of content in general to me.
Right.
And the balance just doesn't seem to be there. I if you're gonna start with a 3D first person one, you got to do New Vegas. It's just not. You just don't do Fallout 4. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. See, I was considering starting with 4 because there's a lot of support for that. A lot of people are making mods for that. So if you just want to get a good Fallout experience, start with 4, go to 3, but end with Vegas, because once you get to Vegas, that's where. Now, if you don't like 4 and 3, then you forget about it. You're not gonna
see that. I wouldn't want somebody's first experience of Fallout to be 3 or 4, because the way that I look at it is if you don't like New Vegas, you probably won't like any Fallout that much on a narrative level or on a gameplay like.
Yeah, the
RPG
thing is though,
level.
if you do like 3, you're gonna want to play 4, and then you're gonna want to play Vegas, and then you're gonna stay with Vegas. All the people I talk to, it's like, no, just keep playing Vegas, man. So, I'd rather the last thing you do, if you like the Fallout, because when you play Fallout, it's not about 3D or 2D or turn-based or real-time or whatever. It's about the universe. It's about the idea of exploring the wasteland and survival and striving to survive and making friendships and trying to help these guys and get all the quests you could possibly do in one area. And oh my God, you got laser guns. What the hell is that? Oh my God, you get a car. How do you repair that? How do you fuel that? And all the things that come along with discovering the wasteland. And that's why I love 2. There was a main plot you had to follow, and if you didn't that, the game was over. So there was a sense of urgency, and it goes from tribal to getting power armor and getting Gauss rifles and discovering all the conspiracies therein. So I don't know. I would start with 2 because that's just my favorite, and just go linearly from 3 to New Vegas. Fallout 4 is a hit and miss. People like the gunplay better. Like the modding support a lot better too. There's more options. But New Vegas is where I always like once a year, like I feel like going around the wasteland for a bit. New Vegas is the way to go. All right, we got to read some super chats. We're gonna get started. I don't want to just keep reading super chats, guys. So ease up on the money, okay? Lenny the Shark, I want to try one of these. Oh, yeah, sorry, I already answered that. John Lemley, there's apparently a new Halo project, maybe a game, coming out, so I'm excited to see a movie Bob calls it fascist this time. Is it a TV show, or is it a movie, or what is it? I've heard so many things.
It depends on what you're talking about, right? Are you talking about Halo Infinite? Obviously, everyone knows that's coming out. That's the Project Scarlet Halo game.
Yeah.
I know that there's a TV show in production, but I don't know if that's what people are referring to. But the TV show is in development hell, basically. It's not going so well.
Yeah, it's been like that for years. So, if I know more information, I'd be happy to research that. But is it the TV show? If not, then I wouldn't know, because all I've heard was some rumors about the TV show.
That's all I know about Halo is Infinite and the TV show that's supposed to be for Showtime, I think. I'm not
really?
sure.
Showtime, interesting. Okay,
That's what I heard. That was the house that it was underneath, but it's been there for years because of issues.
Tom the Cat, finally nice to see you as a member, sir. You've been around for a while. Thanks for subscribing. I always appreciate getting you guys, getting you popping up in the chat, because you're always there anyway. Nice to see you. Thank you, sir. And now Tom Lemley again. I think Fallout 4 is a bit comparable to Bioshock 2, really, in some of its improvements technically, but isn't as interesting as its predecessor. Huh. They certainly changed VATS. They certainly changed gunplay. They changed the third-person dialogue and all that stuff. So you have to like those elements. What was it? You were traveling around in was it Boston? Was that the major?
You're talking about Fallout 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Boston. Like it's the Commonwealth.
Right. Okay.
So like you're reading this super chat right here. The Fallout 4 is a bit comparable to Bioshock 2. It's more comparable to Bioshock Infinite in that it sort of botches a bunch of stuff and has overly simplified gameplay. It's really unbalanced. Silly story. I don't know. Bioshock 2 is more like Fallout 2, where it's expanded, it's a little bit better, but it also is a little bit less rooted in some ways, maybe a little buggier. It's a difficult comparison.
It's definitely, the story is not as strong, I would say. It's sort of like a side story, because with Fallout 1, that's like the origin of the super mutants and your tribe, etc. And this is like after that, there's another tribe, or there's a tribe after that, and they're still looking for the Gek, and they're still trying to discover all this stuff.
Yeah, and then you have the Enclave and all of that, and that's that one, right? President Kimball's 2, right? Or is that the first one?
That's also the second one. Yeah.
That's the second one. Okay. Yeah, that's how I feel, because Bioshock 2 is also kind of like a prequel-ish side story about a different character. It's not as important as the first one. And then Bioshock Infinite jumps to shark, which is also what I think Fallout 4 does. Fallout 4 just like, to me, the best metaphor for Fallout 4, like the little whole thing in the nutshell moment, was when I was in a base that hadn't been ruined by the nuclear war or whatever. It was still in pristine condition, and then I opened up a drawer and a pipe pistol was inside. I was like, how did a pipe pistol get in there? You know, how did a thing that was made in the apocalypse get into the loot table of something that is supposed to be pre-war? And it's just because the game is lazy. The game is operating on lazy ideas. It's not, even though it has a new engine and it has new ideas and concepts associated with it, it's still presenting the same world it's fundamentally been presenting since Morrowind with Bethesda games, where certain things are realistic up to a point, and then after that they become gamified. And the gamified aspects of Fallout ever since 3 and the Skyrim stuff, I feel like the stats are just about cheesing. If you want to win at Fallout, Bethesda games, or like Oblivion or whatever, just pick whatever is going to be the cheesiest class and dump your stat points, and then you can have as much fun as possible. If you try and play it as if it's a realistic role-playing experience, it's not going to work. And that's my problem with these modern games, especially Fallout 4, which is just a cheap shooter to me.
Hello there.
Hello, Shiny. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right. Sorry, I was a little late.
No problem. We haven't started yet, and we're about to go. I think we're all set, guys.
Wait, you spent like 30 minutes talking or something?
Well, we got a favorite topic of ours, so kind of had to talk about it. So, yeah, got to do it. So, now we're talking about a just right example, in his opinion, thereof, of The Last of Us 2.
Shit. Jesse, stand up.
No, he's dead.
I shoot this one too.
Halfway through The Last of Us Part 2, the story seems to reach its climax.
He's got a hole right in his face.
A risky turn. For 10 or so hours, you've played as Ellie, one of the main characters from the previous game. She is seeking revenge against this character, Abbey, who brutally murdered her sort of adopted father, Joel. As Ellie, you track Abbey to Seattle, where she's part of a militant group called the Wolves. And for 3 days, you go on a warpath through the city in an attempt to find her. It's set up exactly like a traditional revenge story, with Ellie hunting down everyone responsible for Joel's death, while growing increasingly obsessive, erratic, and bloodthirsty. But then Abbey catches you at your hideout and has the upper hand when the game smash cuts to black, rewinds the clock, and asks you to play the next 10 hours from the villain's perspective.
No, it doesn't ask
leading
you.
up to
It
this
forces you.
showdown. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference between
This has
asking
been
and forcing.
a very contentious decision, hasn't it? It's not for everyone. But in this
So
video,
it's essentially a change of narrative with a flashback, with another flashback, and in those flashbacks are dream flashbacks. Okay,
Yeah, excellent, awesome. That's what I want.
flashbacks have a certain use in narrative, but not multiple ones and not all the time. And there's 6 of them. I can't believe they did that. It's just ridiculous stuff.
You also have to be careful not to overuse flashbacks as well, because they have been overused in a lot of media.
Oh yeah. You shouldn't use a flashback unless you absolutely have to. If you can find another way to do it, then do that.
Also, it's kind of like a lazy way of showing and not telling, because there's other ways you can portray this. The only other ways I can think of are harder, but it's not always best just to go the easy route of, oh, we quickly go to this part where, oh, we go back in time, rather than trying to explore that part organically through dialogue and such.
You know, it's a very strange technique when even Hideo Kojima in Metal Gear Solid 4 uses like 2-second flashbacks that you could barely even see, just for effect.
Yeah. You know what I don't like is I don't like in Halo 3 when you're walking through the flood areas or whatever, and you're getting hit with these little segments where you can't move fast and you have to just walk slowly, and you
just get flashed in the face.
Yeah, you just get flashed in the face. It's like, can you fuck off? And here's the thing. On a bigger level of video games, I am playing a video game. I'm not watching a movie. And Last of Us makes me watch a lot of movie, and that pisses me off. And the story is asking me to take it seriously while I'm upset with it. And then some dude on YouTube is going to tell me that I'm the problem, that the game is not made for me or something stupid.
Just biased.
Like that. Of course I'm biased, but that's why I pick games that are fun to play. Except on PlayStation 4, how many games do I actually have to choose from that are third-person shooters, that are survival horror games? You make a game so that you can attract the audience from that area. You don't make a story, you don't make a game that you're trying to sell a lot of copies of, that you're supported directly by your platform, that's going to piss everybody off and destroy the fandom, which seems to be all the rage now. I fully support it, because if Neil wants to ruin his career, by all means, go ahead.
I kind of akin to it going into, sorry about the food analogy, but going into a restaurant and the chef just starts...
Always the food analogy.
Always just starts swearing at you like you're a piece of shit, get the hell out of my store, and then the waiter has to like bring you back. Like, no, he's just having a fit. Don't worry about him. And he's trying to cook you a meal, and you're like, I don't want to eat anything from this guy. What the hell?
Yeah, it's the food analogy is perfect because I think I've said it before. Food, if it's cooked badly, you will get sick directly. If it's really good, you could have a great time. You feel great afterwards. And, so many things can go wrong. So many things can go right and affect your day and affect your mood. And because it's so visceral, because it's so directly effective on your mood and your personality and what your day is going to be like, people don't like to mess with people. If you order something, you get exactly what you want. For some reason, if it becomes art, if it stops being about giving the customer what they ordered, then it's like, oh, you have bad taste or whatever. It's like, look, I'm not trying to go to El Bulli here. I'm trying to order something.
To an extent, making food is an art form.
Everything could be considered an art form. I agree. I'm not trying to take anything away from art or artistry. But what I'm saying is that there are critics and there are analysts or whatever on YouTube that are trying to excuse bad decisions for the customer as art.
Well, I would say the reason why it doesn't happen with food is because food directly has a function, whereas art doesn't as directly have a function. So you can say, oh, well, it's arty. Well, it's arty. You can't go, oh, well, it's arty. And it's just what the cook wants to do when it comes to cooking. It's like, no, this has a function. It has to taste nice. If it doesn't taste nice, sorry, I'm not going to eat this shit.
The difference
I'll tell you what it is.
When you actually go to a haute cuisine restaurant, like a really ritzy place, everything they do has been practiced to be perfect. So even though you spend $30-$40 on like a 3-ounce steak, it's going to be an amazing piece of meat. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts.
If I go to a high-end restaurant and somebody says, the sea urchin ceviche here is incredible, and I go, I don't really want that. And they say, well, it's a shame, you don't have that refined taste. I get it. I completely understand. I don't want to eat an urchin because, like, in my mind, I know what it looks like, but I'm sure it tastes delicious. That is bad taste on my behalf, right? But at the same time, if I order something at that restaurant and the level of quality isn't there with what I ordered, it almost doesn't matter if that urchin is amazing, because that obscure thing that you're making isn't what I came to the restaurant for. That's what you're attracting this very narrow, specific audience for. And what I've realized is that this art excuse, that art can just be whatever the creator wants it to be, but at the same time, death of the author is inherent, so it's all subjective. Like, it is the idea that you do not have to take responsibility for decisions or be beholden to an audience or be beholden to customers or be financially responsible for the product you're making not having the return that you're looking for. It's just to get rid of responsibility, in my book.
Mm.
There's either craft to things and you follow that craft or you don't. Again, there's nothing wrong with creating something new and innovative, but you still have to follow on the basics. People are expecting basic genre tropes, basic genre standards, whether they're stereotypes or archetypes, it doesn't matter. It's something that they can go, oh, I know what's going on. Oh, you're doing a twist. Okay, fine, great. I can get behind that as long as I'm getting what I thought I was getting plus something else. It's always nice to give something more than what you already wanted. That's what you do at restaurants. That's what you do in storefronts, whatever you're selling. It's more than what they wanted at the same price. And they're like, oh, this is a great place. Okay. John Lemley, thank you, sir. The sad part is I can tell this video is going to quickly devolve. All right. I don't know why that is, but sure. It's already way better than the start of Donkey or CVH's video by not being as bad. Well, Donkey is there for the laugh. And I think he was trying to be serious or honest, at least, with his Last of Us 2. With Just Right, it's kind of like he wants to try and teach you something. And it's pretty deep. Like, it's not a bad truth. It's just you're not learning enough. It's like, oh, just enough to say this is right. You're correct. And then it does his own thing, which is fine.
I think that Donkey boiled it down really well when he said, because I don't agree with his review at all. I don't, I was actually astonished, but where he's he said the stupid line where it's like, if you don't like it or whatever, you need to turn your brain on or something like that. And I get what people are saying. They're trying to say, look at how interesting this contentious choice is. Isn't it so subversive and contentious? Isn't it so stunning and brave? And I'm like, no, it's not, because it's exactly the same feeling I had when I was watching The Last Jedi. It's like it's not difficult to come up with the idea of a basic revenge story, but then you realize that revenge is bad. That is child play. That's
Yeah.
like 10-year-old storytelling. And then the idea of killing off a main character, that's also not amazing. That's just taking a 1 and turning it into a 0. Oh, that character's just out of the story now. He could have gone to Vegas if it doesn't matter. He left, but the point is that this character died, and it's supposed to be for shock value. But again, I think the shock value thing stopped working on me after Call of Duty 4, where your character gets nuked and your character dies. So I was like, wow, they actually killed the player character.
Yeah,
Even though I didn't really have association with it, it was still me. But now that I've seen that, I don't. You can kill 1,000 Russian civilians in Modern Warfare 2. That's not as impressive. Or Modern Warfare 3, or Battlefield or wherever, when nukes go off all the time, or you're in space. Like, then none of that is going to really affect me. It's about the emotional connection. And if you kill the positive emotional connection I have, which is the only thing that's keeping me interested in the story of this game, then that shock value is not effective like as the narrative is telling me it's supposed to be. It's effective in the way that I want to stop playing. I want to stop looking at this material.
Yeah.
And that to me is antithetical to what you're trying to do.
And when you're talking about stories in general, I would say, this is what I was told in creative writing. I don't know if this is true, but 90 to 95% of all stories are about death. So whether you're talking about death or someone's going to die, that's kind of expected at this point. Combined with the genre of zombie survival or post-apocalyptic, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of death. Everyone's going to be gray. Everyone's going to be striving to survive and killing each other. That's kind of a given. So seeing a character die like that is like, oh, okay, great. I wasn't on the back of my mind, but sure, I can go with that. But it's the way they do it and how they do it. And you just don't kill off Luke Skywalker like that, okay? You just don't do it that way. There's other ways to do it without offending people. And it's just a strange thing of a creator shooting themselves in the foot within the first hour and then saying, we're so smart, we're so good storytellers, we're going to make you love Abbey. And if you're gullible, if you're stupid, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, but you got to be something wrong with you to not care about Joel. Why else are you playing this game? Do you not care about Ellie? If you care about Ellie, you care about Joel, you care about her friends. And then suddenly you're going to care about Abby. You're going to care about Abby. You can understand her better. Doesn't mean you're going to care about her.
I just want to protest the notion from any academic or any YouTube writer or critic or whatever that anything here is special in the ideas of the concepts being imposed upon the audience. It's not like we haven't seen stuff like this before. The thing that like Sage or whatever has to understand is that these decisions are not like complex narrative questioning characters, that kind of thing. What you did was you made a story that's super depressing at a time in which everybody is at home looking forward to something and they're already depressed, stuck in their houses and all that. And I know that wasn't really something that people were predicting, but how convenient is it that when everybody just wanted some semblance of hope, when they wanted some new content, when there was a dearth of it, or a lack of it, there's not like
Switch worked for me and what I got
I don't know.
out of
I'm
that
just
experience.
I'm just saying, like
I don't think you need to go outside context of the media to make arguments for why this isn't good media. Because I think there's even if COVID wasn't going on, the idea to kill Joel is still not a very good narrative one. At least in the one where it's being the way it's handled. Because there's plenty of media where the mentor or the point of view character gets killed, characters we care about, just because it's so close to the medium of zombie storytelling games. Walking Dead did it, and lots of people really liked the first Walking Dead game, and the next couple before they probably got sick of it. But it's something which just happened a lot, like some mentor characters and point of view characters dying, and it's been handled well enough. It's been handled with respect. We've said it multiple times. You have to treat these characters when you're sending them off with respect and not just making their death really stupid and shallow.
Interestingly enough, there was a petition, I think it was last month or 2 months ago, to get The Last of Us 2 released early because of COVID, and then people wanted to play a game and uplift their spirits because they love the characters from the first one, which is pretty funny now that we know what the game's about. So it's like, yep, you got your wish. And this was all because of the everyone's at home, so the rating systems couldn't release products on time for boxing and what have you. So they had to wait 2 extra months, and whatever polish that gave time for Naughty Dog to finish the game off and fix problems. So bravo, we got the game on time. Anyway, 2 super chats going to read, and we're going to keep on going. EK Cons, or EC Cons, thank you, sir. Got Dark Souls, Bioshock, Skyrim, and Tales of Vesperia for Xbox 360. They each cost $5 to $10 each. Bravo, fantastic deals. And GameStop had a buy 2 get 2 free sale, so I only paid $20. That's amazing.
When was that though? Was that recent?
Must be.
Probably, yeah.
Xbox 360. Wow.
That's pretty good. Guy made some money, or made a steal with all those games. Those are good games too. So, bravo.
With the Steam Summer Sale, I've been getting a lot of really good games as well.
I still got to play my old Steam games, so I haven't touched it.
Well, yeah, I haven't bought, had a chance to play through these games yet. So what I usually do is I get a bunch during the summer sale, and I just play them throughout when the sales are no longer on. So I kind of put them out through time. I actually got Doctor Who Edge of Time while it was on the summer sale, so I only had to get it for 10 quid rather than 20, because thank God I didn't give BBC more money for that shit game.
The BBC.
Right.
They produced that game?
BBC. They didn't produce it in-house. They licensed it out to a visual effects studio, of all things.
Interesting.
A visual effects studio which specializes in game engine visual effects. They only have one project to their name before Edge of Time, and it's a very strange pick.
Interesting stuff.
It's only after I played the game that I kind of did a bit of research into it for my review.
All right. John Lemley, thank you, sir. But guys, it's special because the narrative is tied to game-like game. Well, after reading that...
it's a game-like game.
Yeah, after reading that blog post today from Kotaku, that girl who hated the game, hated everything about it, but loved it anyway, and she wanted to remove every element of it so she could have a horse exploration simulator. And I was like, don't they have that already with Red Dead Redemption, where you're allowed to just open world everything in a horse? Seems pretty normal if you want to have.
I'm pretty sure there's probably games with Farming Simulator that already do that.
It was such a silly, one of the dumbest reviews I've ever seen of a game. And she was talking about...
Well, this is what modern reviews are these days.
Well, this was not... I don't even know if this was a review. I think she was just some crazy person who is black and racist, saying, I was so offended by the black people that died. Everyone dies in the game. Black, Asian, white, brown, you name it. They're all dead.
I just want to give a shout out to
Joel was obviously black.
To Mad Courier 6, who's playing Hearts of Iron 4 with the Old World Blues mod and listening to Smudcast. Life is great.
Wow.
I love that. That's great.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite DLC, Old World Blues. Oof.
There you go.
That's your favorite part.
And New Vegas is already great. And to put that on top is like, oof.
This is a different thing. This is Hearts of Iron 4. That's what's funny about it. Old World Blues is the DLC for Fallout New Vegas, but it's a mod specifically for Hoi 4.
Yeah.
Which I encourage people. That's like one of my favorite strategy games. You can do so much stuff with that. There's a mod where you can play as Hitler from Argentina, like he escaped. Senior Hitler. It's so great. But yeah, so what was I thinking? The number one thing that I dislike, and something that I wanted to explain to chat about my feelings on the matter, because let me put it this way. You have a video game, which is active content, as opposed to a TV show, which is passive. If I'm watching a show, I don't feel like I have any ability to affect change. There's no, as Smud would put it, locus of control. I'm just sitting there, I'm looking in, and I'm watching the authorship and the writing and the direction of what is being presented. And I'm trying to get into it. When I'm playing a video game and I'm watching and I'm doing the combination, and you have something that is like Abbey coming through the door or any of these things, it is creating a dissonance in my point of view, where I'm playing and I could be really, really good as Ellie or whatever, but the choices are always going to be made for me. So you have a combination of passive and active entertainment, and the best sort of linear narrative storytelling, even if it has open world areas, gives you a good reason for why these decisions are made. You play into it. And I questioned when I was watching The Last of Us 2's gameplay, what choices did the player make that led to like Joel going and doing this? Because most of those narrative choices come from the director and writer Neil, not from choices that I made. And that's something that I really like in video games, is the ability to affect the change in the game. That's the reason why New Vegas is awesome. That's why we keep talking about it, because every time you play the game, you can play it slightly differently if you want to.
The whole point of a game, it's interactive, and to go further and have an interactive story, and like the idea of you being the protagonist rather than watching someone else be the protagonist is one of the main reasons why a lot of people like storytelling games in the video game medium.
And that's why we have the example of New Vegas on one end of this, everything's open world, everything is dialogue based, you have all these choices, you have all these factions.
Everything is awesome.
And then you have Alpha Protocol, where everything is linear, but it's still a lot of choice, a lot of control, a very streamlined and directed dialogue, where it's not about choices, it's about the style of conversation. And then in between that, you have like Deus Ex, where it's kind of like you have multiple paths, you still have the dialogue control. So there's all these little flavors of games that do a little bit of everything. And I think the two ends of the spectrum are New Vegas and Alpha Protocol.
And even though games like Mass Effect kind of have the illusion that you are controlling the world, it's still an illusion.
The ability to choose your reactions.
Mass Effect makes you... Mass Effect, even though you're not really affecting the story that much, it's still going to go down like these... it's going to end the same way. We all know that from Mass Effect 3. It's all the illusion, but at least that illusion gives you the feel and the perception that you are making changes to this world, you are important, and at least you can actually change the world in some smaller elements, like saving this alien, or races and stopping other races from becoming extinct.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just the engagement that you have, even the loosest amount of engagement, like Titanfall 2, where you can choose a response that's a joke or something seriously emotional, is just giving you a little bit more access into the decision-making process of the game. It feels you more connected. It's special. It's part of the narrative storytelling. And it also shows that there has been a lot of consideration into potential outcomes and differences that the game is thinking ahead of you. When this game forces you to go through certain obstacles, and I know a lot of games, every game has to do that to a certain degree, but it's basically gatekeeping decision making and keeping it to the author. And sometimes if you don't agree with that choice and you go, man, I wish this happened. In a movie, you have no ability to change that. In a book, you have no ability to change that unless you're reading one of those choose your own adventure kind of things. But that interactivity introduces that option. I mean, what is the reason why Joel has to die? Well, because the story stops if he doesn't. That to me shows that it's bad, like, interactive branching storytelling design. It's just a straight narrative. The only reason why any of this is happening is because Joel gets killed. To me, it's really basic, which is why it's so boring to me. It's not like there's distinct motivations that create different aspects that are interesting to me. It's not like I can play through Deus Ex and think about all the different characters and why they're doing what they're doing, or being engaged in like an old Westwood adventure game like the Blade Runner game, where I'm fully immersed in the experience and every move that I make is dependent on what information is being fed to me. So like, I just feel like I'm being pandered to when anybody tells me that it's incredible because it does something that you don't want. Like, that's not special to me. If you can convince me that it's good by just presenting that material, like if you can kill Joel and then bring Abbey out, and I actually agree with the emotions of the situation and I agree with the logic of it, then you've done a good job. But that's not what happened. I got upset, just like everybody did, and it didn't resolve. It just became another thing, and that it became another thing that was interesting to me that I had like a mild attachment to that was taken away by a creator that was up their own ass. That's what I felt like.
Well, no change there then.
Thanks, Ryan Johnson.
John Lemley again.
I know voices in the chat. He's just
Yeah,
muted.
yeah. He's here.
Damn it.
We saw you. Hey, voice. How's
Yeah.
it going?
I thought I was being hella sneaky.
Oh no.
I'm fine. Thank you. I see we are back at it again with another Last
Yes.
of Us 2 video.
The most game-like game.
Wow.
What is it? The Schindler's List of video games that.
I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to be like nicer, and be more like, not be as like judgmental or negative to content creators. But for example, Just Right is like, I don't understand what he's doing anymore. I don't understand why it's like, okay, yeah, I want to explain to you why I liked it, but are you really explaining us why you liked it, or are you taking the contrarian position because that's the right, quote unquote, right think position to take? Like, what if you didn't like the game and you made would you still make this video? Why I didn't like it? I don't think Just Right would make that video, but I can obviously tell why he made this one. If you get my logic there.
Yes.
Okay. This is just a fun little super chat. Everyone dies in the game. Abbey would like a word with you, Smud Boy. Well, yeah, okay. There are some people who don't die. That's true. The ones that should have died
But like
didn't. So yeah.
the specific comment we were kind of we were responding to was the idea like someone had a problem with the black people who died
Yes.
in the game. Apparently, all black people are going to have plot armor from now on.
The plot armor in The Last of Us 2
Diversity armor.
is ridiculous. Diversity plot
Yeah.
armor? Oh my god. What the hell is that?
No, it's not plot armor. It's just diversity armor. It's like if you're a minority in a video game now, you can't die.
Oh, great. I hate using the term plot armor because, it's... I don't know if that's a storytelling term for movies or what have you, but it's always like, oh, you fell from a great height.
It's just I think it can be overused sometimes. Kind of like how plot holes, the term plot holes has been overused. But I feel like, especially in the case of Last of Us, it is the right term because like there's so many times that you're just about to die and all of a sudden you don't, and it's very convenient. Like it kind of really surpasses the amount of convenience a story allows to tell.
It happens with so many characters too. It's just like you just watch cutscenes because there's so many cutscenes. You're like, oh, this person should have died there, and then again, and it's the same scene. It happened multiple times. You're like, what? Why isn't this happening? Why didn't Abby kill everyone? What? Because Lev said so? What the hell does Lev have to do with anything?
I just feel like this is so...
Well, Lev takes the role of
Humanity for Abby?
well, no, I think it's more of a role model that Abby has to set for him if she's trying to get him away from the evil cult of people that cut children and terrorize other what's the word factions, what have you. Yeah. So I suppose it would be bad to spout all that for her to spout all that nonsense about being the better person and then cutting the throat of a pregnant woman in front of him.
Well, that's fun.
And I think that whole point, and it's a very wobbly relationship. It's like it's nowhere near as strong as like Joel and Ellie, but I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to do the parallel kind of thing.
It's very weak.
Yeah.
They failed at the parallel.
You know what did a good... Sorry, go on.
But it's all about she doesn't want to project her vengeance onto this impressionable kid, I guess.
So fucking dumb.
We
all saw
Game
Game of Thrones.
doesn't make me care.
We all saw Game of Thrones, so we've all seen the gray morality and, oh, this person died, but I was rooting for them, and this is the bad guy. Now we're watching these guys who are the bad guys, and we're on their side a little bit. Oh, wait, no, we're not. Like, it's fine. I get it, but that had complex storytelling, and had twists that you were maybe not expecting.
It
So-
subverted your expectations, but did it in a way which made sense.
But it's like that. The number one thing about Game of Thrones is it started out as an ensemble. It didn't give one character. It was like, this is a protagonist, this is a protagonist, this is also a protagonist. And then in The Last of Us 2, they're trying to change up what was originally just about these two people.
And you can like characters who are evil, like Joffrey and Littlefinger, and you like them because they are evil, not because they kill off horrible character or likable characters from the previous book. So you can get along with them and say, oh, I see where they're going with this. I know why this character exists. And because there's a gigantic cast, and you tend to forget all these, you need a glossary to find out who the hell these people are half the time. But you expect that after a while. It's like, this is the motif. This is the style that Martin is doing it. You're like, okay, we're going with that. Great. I can follow you.
You could even, if you want a story on how you make a really good protagonist, which people love, you could always go the route of Handsome Jack. I know Borderlands is kind of a bit more cartoony, so it allows you to get away with more things. But the antagonist that people love, like people love Handsome Jack and Negan because they are very fun antagonists, and that initial liking can then be expanded upon because they're very fun characters, and then you expand upon them, and then you sort of realize why they're this way, and then you start to actually feel bad for them, even despite the fact these are horrible monsters. These are terrible people, and you care more for them than you do Abbey.
That's a good example. Handsome Jack is a pretty good villain, yeah. All right,
I
Joe.
think Negan, because he's more in a zombie apocalypse scenario, Negan is a better example than Handsome Jack.
A lot of people didn't like Negan, though, I think.
A lot of people did. He's very fun. He's very charismatic, despite the fact that I think the reason why people don't like Negan as much is because he's very... he kills some favorite characters.
Right, the shock value thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I suppose... Yeah, okay, I didn't really take into account the fact he kills characters. But even then, when Negan kills people like Glenn, I don't think there was any kind of huge outrage about the storytelling like there was in Last of Us 2. Just because of the way they handled it.
Here's a random question from Joe Crazy. Any opinions on the Mafia games by 2K? You know what? I played the original Windows Mafia game, so no, I don't know what 2K is all about, but I think it's a third-person, cutscene-driven game, so...
It was kind of like an alternative to GTA.
Yeah.
Super flawed. Super duper flawed. Has a really good loyal following for it. Mafia 3 was botched, obviously, because it was made a lot later by, I think, different people, and wasn't polished. It's one of those games I feel like that you play once you want more of the similar content, and you go, okay, all right, I'll accept an average style game for what good parts it actually has. It's not the best, but I had some, I've enjoyed. I like Mafia content, but I would rather play the Godfather PlayStation 2 game. That's how I feel about it.
Cool. All right. Here's Mad Courier 6. What the heck is a VTuber? I don't know. What is a VTuber, guys?
No idea what that is.
Oh, good look
Oh,
at the definition.
Yeah, the VTubers are like the
virtual
anime
tuber.
girls.
They're the
Yeah.
ones which have this avatar.
I love it. I say go for it. I say that it gives people that are interesting or funny, who are not particularly attractive, the ability to compete with Twitch thoughts. Let's do it. Fucking go.
Well,
And every time that I've seen it, I've been suitably entertained. So whatever Corone or whatever her name is was playing Doom earlier today. Fantastic. All the like goofy noises and personality traits. I love it.
I was thinking about doing something similar with a clone trooper, but I didn't actually know anyone else was doing it. I just had the idea of making an avatar for myself and then get a clone trooper with all the markings and making a set and everything and moving about with my headset, because I could actually use my VR headset to do sort of almost motion tracking.
I think it's worth because people want to protect their identity, but I have an anime character. I looked up to tutorial for it, and you can manipulate JPEGs and stuff to create the same effect using something called Live 2D for Face Rig. I believe that's how it works.
Yeah, there's a thing called Face Rig you can get on the Steam store. I think it's pretty cheap.
I think the only game I remembered about Mafia was Empire of Sin by, was it John Romero and his team? That has me interested. So I'm not too aware of the Mafia style of games, but that's I think it's isometric turn-based thing. So I love the motif. I love the 20s. I love that sort of vibe. So that's what I'd be interested in playing. Oh, another super chat. Joe Crazy. Thank you, sir. Negan is a character you love to hate. Is that true? Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, absolutely. The comic book is much better, too, by
Yeah.
the way. If you guys haven't read The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman is a great writer, in my opinion, for comic books. And if you like anything about that, I would check out Invincible, which is his take on Superman sort of mixed with Dragon Ball Z, which is awesome.
All right, guys, we can keep going and going. Let's do it.
Part 1. Play, don't show. The most commonly repeated piece of
Really?
writing advice is show, don't tell. You can't tell your audience how to feel. You have to show them how to feel. So that
You have to show.
No,
them how
you
to
don't
feel?
show them how to feel. No. The idea of show don't tell is you don't say, "Ha! Remember that the time our nest of we found that nest of Gundarks, Anakin." It's like that's the idea of telling you that something happened. The idea of showing, if you want, how do I say? Well, actually, a better example is if you say, "Oh, yeah, me and him, we're friends." Instead of telling you say to the audience that you're just friends, you show them that they're just friends through their dialogue and the way they interact, because friends have a very specific way that they interact with each other. So you characterize that. You do that by showing it. You don't just say they're friends. You show that they're friends. That's the idea. You don't tell them how to.
This is a very hot take by.
Well, I think the
Just
whole
right.
I think the whole point is that it's far more complicated to show something in a storyline rather than put it in a throwaway line and say, "Oh, we can't." So if I was trying to build up the stakes between two people coming to blows, and it was over, I don't know, someone was trying to send out an email to that would infect the government's internet or something. It would infect the government computer and cause a world crash. And I just have a line in there that says, "Oh, we can't hit the send button because that won't work because of X." Well, I've just thrown that in out of nowhere in order to make sure my stakes remain intact instead of explaining how A to B this can't happen. I've just said it can't.
That's, I guess I would agree, but it's not. Show don't tell is kind of, it's a basic premise that it covers a lot of things. It's just any way that you can show the audience something rather than just saying it. There's always the extremes, because there is the extreme idea on Game of Thrones where it's like you have to show as much emotion without dialogue. It's like no. The idea isn't don't say anything. The idea is that you don't slap the audience over the face with, "Hey, these two people, they're friends. Oh, these events happen in their lives. Oh, this." Like another example you can pull from films is Captain Marvel, where it just says, "Oh, you're funny, you're clever, you're this, that, and the other, you're supportive." But that's them just slapping the audience in the face by saying, "This is Carol Danvers, this is her character," rather than actually showing any character, which is mostly a plank of wood the entire story.
I think here what he's saying is show don't tell, and then in video games it's play don't tell, as in like put something in gameplay instead of telling them through exposition.
Well, that's more the idea of what Half-Life went for, where it was fuck, I forgot what it's called now, where you just play through the entire game without any cutscenes.
Well, yeah, the cool thing, I always mention Half-Life 2 because they put barriers up that are scripted areas that you can't get out of, but it's diegetic because you're still able to move around. It doesn't always work.
It feels more natural.
It does feel more natural. But the thing here that's I have to note about The Last of Us 2 is that even in the context of the first game, which had a lot of QuickTime events, this game has no QuickTime event where there would be one if it was designed by the same standard as the first one. So it has even less interactivity with its storytelling. And that's something to me that kind of negates it. It's more... because as we exposed when we were looking at the video about how it was made by the lessons from the screenplay video that we covered, it's written like a film script with gameplay sections cut out. So there's a lot more show, don't play in this game, which is the biggest problem. Because
is that what we're coining for video games now? Play, don't show.
Yeah, that's basically have player involvement as much as you can and minimize cutscenes as much as you can, because unless it's a game that is designed that way, like it's more casual, like you have a turn-based game, that would be very cinematic, that kind of thing. Usually when you have a scripted cutscene, it's something that is changing in the game world that is outside of the actual gameplay. And that's just, for some reason, that always takes me out of the game. And I think it's because I'm noticing that I'm losing agency and that things are happening that are outside of my control that I wouldn't do just to affect the narrative. And I feel like The Last of Us 1, when I was playing it, I was a little frustrated by that. And the worst Call of Duty games where I'm chasing after Makarov or whatever, and he's always getting away, like a mustache-twirling villain. He's just like,
I'll get you next time.
I'll get you at the next level. And it's like, nah, that's stupid. There has to be a good, like, usually in a FPS, a great way to dole it out is you have a mystery that you're uncovering piece by piece. Each level is like a piece, or you're one step closer each level to getting the big bad guy. It's all about power crawl and how you develop the character. So to me, I don't know about play don't show or play don't tell in this game. I'm not sure that actually is the way that it is. I think people have to decide for themselves.
But what Just Right is doing here, he's trying to make the point that the medium is the message by using gameplay as a storytelling method. That's great. The problem is his explanation of showing, not telling. He told the audience, hey, we're here to show you how to feel. It's like, no. That has nothing to do with your reaction to what's on the screen. That's not the point of anything. You can react negatively or positively. I don't care. You're trying to tell a story by a visual medium, like with descriptions. You don't say Mary is strong, Mary is tall, Mary does big and tall things. You're like, no, you just show Mary being X. She does X things. That's why you have it. You don't waste time with dialogue. You don't waste time with descriptions or world building. You just have her do things like that. You go, oh, I can deduce she's tall because she has to duck a lot, and she's strong because she's picking up cars or whatever. I don't need to feel. I don't need to feel scared or whatever. That's stupid. That's a dumb explanation of what show to tell is supposed to mean.
Has anybody here played Asura's Wrath before?
Oh God, that's a crazy game.
I love that game because that's like the most powerful game I could think of, where like the power levels are just cosmic level. It's also a revenge story. It's very similar to the God of War kind of thing. It's also sort of it's a feudal but also heroic sort of revenge story gameplay, and it's a lot of cutscenes. But the cutscenes, the game is presenting itself not as much as like an open world, or a fighting game with stages. It's more of like a rail shooter almost. It's like a rail brawler. It's got segments that are basically playing out an animated story, and I like that. But The Last of Us, I feel like with its open sandbox style gameplay where you can do this stealth move and then shoot the guy or whatever, Stealth Gaming BR, I think that's his name. Yeah, he does a really good show off of how a pro would play the game or whatever. But I just feel like a game that is going to be on the rails narratively, that's going to show you a revenge story, better have the kinetic satisfaction of Asura's Wrath and better have the emotional highs as that. And I struggle to think what is the emotional high of The Last of Us besides playing guitar and seeing Joel? Like what's the joy part? Is it supposed to be dancing with Dina? I don't understand.
It's a flashback where Joel's nice to Abbey by taking her to a museum. I think that's the highlight of the whole story.
And so it's like
it's a flashback.
Maybe and then what someone's supposed to tell me with that is like, it's the little things in life that really you remember. Those are the things that are important. And I enjoyed that message when I was watching The Sopranos, and it was all the families together at the restaurant, and it was raining and there was no power, and so everybody came together. Like, I get that. I understand what they're trying to do that. But if I'm going through the apocalypse and I'm stabbing people in the neck every 5 seconds, and then you take away my agency at the end, and you expect me to enjoy the experience, and then if I don't enjoy it, then your response is you weren't supposed to enjoy it. I really question what I'm trying to do here.
Or you're just biased.
Am I playing a game? How can I not be wrong about playing this game and still dislike it in the mind of someone that is creating this kind of apologetics for it?
Here's John Lemley on the topic. The Last of Us 2 tries to wash us all in the blood constantly without making any of the characters likable or their decisions relatable, and it all goes nowhere. There are some decisions that Abby makes that I understand why she's doing it. At the same time, it's she's very reaction to everything. She doesn't have a goal. It's always like, I want to go see Owen. I want to go back to base. I want to do this. Now I want to go help some kids. Now I want to go. It's just constantly changing. Whereas Ellie's like, I want to kill Abby. And stuff happens. So
And stuff happens.
Yeah.
All right.
Mark the Cyborg, thank you. Oh, Invincible is greater than The Boys. Oh, interesting. That's a strange comparison. Okay.
No.
It would be
I
expensive
don't know.
to
If
do
you haven't read Invincible, then it's really hard to make that comparison. But they're very different.
Yeah, we're talking about the written format of Invincible and the visual comic of The Boys. Great book, though.
The Boys is like negative, is it's nihilistic almost, and then Invincible still has this like father-son dealing with trying to be a hero thing.
But here's the thing: there are people to root for in The Boys, and you're not wrong for rooting for them.
Well, the same thing applies to Invincible. It's just it's totally has to do with the author's tone. Like Kirkman is not trying to go for a sort of like F everybody tone, and The Boys is like, we're gonna kill him. It's different. The bad guys in Invincible act like the good guys in The Boys, so it's a different take.
Great book though, and it's done, so it's all there is, all there if you decide to get into it. Yeah, that's true. It's good to have stories that conclude properly, so, and they're not multi-part series where they keep going. So that's
the whole point is that I understand that these ideas can exist, and just because you create a story where the person you are rooting for is actually a terrible person, that is not a bad idea. There is no such thing as a bad idea when it comes to story writing. It's all about the execution that you do.
I think Jar Jar Binks was a pretty bad idea. I don't think you can make that.
Yeah, you could make that argument.
But yeah, I do know what you mean.
I understand the ideas behind it, that you create a character like Abby, paint them to be the bad character because they take something away from you that was dear to your heart, i.e. Joel, and then they try and flip the script and recontextualize everything about her by playing as her for a couple of hours. I understand that idea exists, and it has been done before in media, but it is not about the idea and whether it's good or bad. It's about how the idea was executed. Yeah. And there are hits and misses, as there are all the time. Again, I remain firmly in the camp that you could do a Star Wars story where Luke is a hermit that gives up on the Jedi and wants to kill itself, but that is like a 3-arc story to get him from A to B. So,
and it's going to be difficult to achieve as well.
But it's not impossible. You could do it.
You're still
you're going to have to put all your effort into it.
I admire writers that can do it, but if you don't know how to do it and you attempt it, don't bother writing. Like, you should know how to write something before you write it, okay? I know that sounds weird, but if you were going to...
Oh, no, know your limitations before you go into it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. If you're going to dig yourself in a hole first so you can make a mountain, okay. I mean, you could use the dirt from the hole to make the mountain, but you're still in a hole.
If I said to Smud that I wanted a story in which, all these crazy things happen, and Smud just goes, yeah, no, I can do that, and then he walks away and it's like, fuck, I actually have to do this now. He could have said, no, I don't have the writing capacity to do this. But if you accept and say, yes, I can do it, you've then got to make it work, even if you don't think you're qualified to do it.
Exactly. So, there's 3 levels of programmers. The beginner says, no problem, I can do that. The intermediate says, this is impossible, I can't do that. And the expert goes, well, if you change 1 or 2 things, you can do something like it, and I can show that to you in another month or so. So it's experience, really, and knowing how things work. So
Yeah.
that's any craft, really. That's not just writing and programming.
It outranks everything.
Yeah.
Experience does rank out everything. You're right.
All right, here's John Lemley. Thank you again, sir. Choose your fighter. Play, don't show, or game like game. I don't know. These buzzwords and having
Read
just
the
right.
response theory.
Like, it's one thing for just right to come up with, game, don't show. I think that's kind of cool. It's another thing to explain.
No, play don't show is my version.
Oh, that was yours? Oh, I'm sorry.
His was play don't tell.
Okay.
You're trying to switch it from show don't tell.
It's his
And
explanation. I hated. It's just like, dude, it's not about how you feel. The story
Right.
does
No,
not
no, it's
show you
not.
how to feel. Okay, that's not how it works.
Well, the thing that I agree with, because it's just the phrasing is weird, but
Well,
I
just
agree that gameplay should be the way that you introduce things. Tutorials. The best explanation I heard from this was, ironically, not at this point, but Eagle Raptor's explanation of conveyance and tutorial levels and how things should be laid out. Like, if you have a tutorial level that doesn't feel like a tutorial level, you're just sort of naturally getting the information without pop-up windows and all that stuff. All game designers and all players like that. But there's just a lack of eloquence when it comes to combining scripting and gameplay. And that's the problem with The Last of Us that he doesn't get to excuse this time around.
Mm-hmm. One thing I just wanted to interject was Smudging. So it's like, well, you do get stories which tell you how to feel, and that's an example I would use is things like laugh tracks. A laugh track is very much a way a story is telling you laugh now, kind of thing. So that you do have elements which tell you how to feel, but it's not really the main element of a story. The story's supposed to persuade you. It doesn't demand. It shows you something which it's like a father and son bonding. It's supposed to invoke an emotion out of you, but it doesn't tell you to feel this emotion.
I think directors who make rom-coms or on TV or what have you that do laugh tracks, in their head, this is funny, and I want other people to laugh with me, so it's easy to get people to laugh together. Kind of like the effect of when someone sneezes or someone coughs, other people start laughing or coughing and sneezing.
Or yawning.
Yeah.
Or like when you start hearing other people laugh, there's something in you that just kind of ha ha ha. I'm supposed to be laughing, ha, and it's not until you realize, wait, why was I laughing?
That's due to the nature of the comedy they're using, the not lowbrow humor, but something along those lines, where it's like, oh, this is the kind of show we're watching, this is the kind of jokes they're telling, that sort of thing. Whereas comedy with stand-up, that's as good as it gets. Like that's where you go to laugh, and those people have gone through the gauntlet of telling jokes that work on average on most of the places they go to. So when you get to the specials, when you get to the Dave Chappelle level, everything that you hear, he's not riffing, he's not making stuff up. This is like textbook. He's figured this out. This is special. He's not going to mess around. So when we see stuff like this in The Last of Us, they're like, hey, what if we control the villain? It's like, okay, sure, what about that? And we make her unattractive. Oh, so why do we like her? Well, she's going to have a really dangerous backstory. It's like, okay. And she really hates Joel. But wait a second, we love Joel. Yeah, but then we get to know that she likes puppies. You're like, okay. And she has friends. Like, okay. And she has a relationship that she put on hold because of Joel. It's like, okay, that sort of works. And you just keep adding crap that you think should stick without understanding why you like the person in the first place, and just by doing stuff.
The way they do it as well, it's very much whacking you over the head is like this character, like her, do it.
Here's a dream sequence. Here's a flashback. Here's another flashback. Here's a time jump. It's like, what do you like? Why? Why are you doing all this? Just show me the character, make her likable, and then get on with it.
The story does get very desperate when it starts to almost demand you to like this character.
Okay. John Limley, there's a big one. Thank you, sir. I'm still perplexed why HBO let Damien Lindelof waste the Watchmen IP when they could have just done a 12-episode miniseries for each chapter while expanding on them. That's interesting. I don't know if that would
Why
work.
not?
I don't know. See, the Watchmen movie, I never even wanted to get near. Because once you read The Watchmen, it's one of the most famous comic books in existence. You know they're not going to do it proper justice. They're going to get close with special effects and what have you, but they're not going to get the narrative right. And just from the trailer, I was like, this is not for me. So if they're going to make a TV series, okay, you got to be even more careful. Now you're expanding the narrative. You're making it longer. So all the nuances of the sets and the characters and their motivations has to work, which is a lot different than reading a comic. Not to say it can't be done, because a comic is great setup for a TV series if it's a nice thick one like The Watchmen. But you got to be very strict with all your sets, with all your scenes, with all your beats. And I assume the Watchmen TV series is a whole post story, so it's a sequel, or rather after the fact.
Yeah.
And it ruins a lot of stuff. So that is not what you do. It's like taking Mouse and making a third one, or Sandman Part 11 or whatever. It's not going to work. Like, imagine putting Sandman, which I think they're doing, as a TV series, as a Death, I think, miniseries about Death. That could work because it's a side character. It's like, all right, sure. But Sandman as is, no way. That would not work. It's too much. It's too big.
Good luck.
TV would give enough time to provide depth to the characters. Yeah, if done right. Again, just because you have a giant budget and lots of seasons doesn't mean it's going to work out. Same with the movie.
Don't make adaptations of Alan Moore content. He doesn't like it. He knows why he doesn't like it, because it's going to be lesser.
It works so well as a comic.
I like V for Vendetta, but it's not better. I think that Hugo Weaving is amazing.
That V for Vendetta, I think, is a totally different beast than the comic. Totally different.
Or From Hell. there's I mean, you don't have I'm not saying you can't, but I don't think that it's a good idea to attach Zack Snyder to
anything
Watchmen comic. And I don't know. I just don't like the idea of adapting or making sequels or whatever out of this content. I really appreciated some of the decisions in Watchmen. I thought that the casting was pretty amazing. But I don't find it to be worthwhile. Don't do that. Don't take something that you know is just regarded by everybody as incredible and then half-ass it or assign it to somebody who's not going to be able to even come close to,
understanding.
You have one of the best comic book writers of all time. You better get one of the best directors and teams to make that content that understands it. But I don't feel like we got that.
I think it was what Mario Puzo did Superman. Sounds bizarre, right?
Mario Puzo.
Why would he do a superhero story? Well, he did The Godfather, so he must know what he's talking about. Not to say that Superman was a Godfather-like story, but he knew what he was doing. All right, we can continue. I just rewound it a bit because I wanted to hear Just Right again.
Not for everyone, but in this video I want to talk about why the Switch worked for me and what I got out of that experience. Part 1. Play, don't show. The most commonly repeated piece of writing advice is show, don't tell. You can't tell your audience how to feel, you have to show them how to feel. So that they
No, you don't show them how to feel. Oh god, for fuck's sake.
This game has an example of the difference because it does both.
It's got nothing to do with how you feel, it's got all to do with world building and storytelling. Storytelling doesn't tell you how to feel, it tries to invoke an emotion.
You just rephrasing what he said.
No, but invoking an emotion is very different than telling someone. It's very different to telling someone. Telling someone is, again, it's like the laugh track. The laugh track is something that slaps you over the face, says, laugh, feel like this is funny. Whereas evoking an emotion is like, you can feel this way, and it's like trying to persuade you.
I think that you're making a distinction without a difference, and it's just a good example is somebody is not hitting you over the head with it, and then a bad example is it being really on the nose, like was it Tommy Wiseau? Like, you're tearing me apart, Lisa. That's like, you're supposed to be emotional. It's not working.
I think his terminology and explanation is the problem. I think I know what Shiny's saying. I think we get it.
I know what Shiny's saying too, but I'm just saying I don't think that Just Right is. I don't think that he's making. I don't think he's saying what
terminology and explaining.
He's trying to explain the effect of showing someone is different than the effect of telling someone because of emotion.
Yes,
which is not the point
of
show and tell.
He's making sense to me. Just Right is making sense to me right now. He hasn't said anything that I feel like is factually inaccurate. Like, yeah, you do You do want to show people instead of tell. You do want them to
No. But he said he wants to show people how to feel. It's like, no, that's not how this works. Okay, I want to tell you a great joke. You might laugh at it, but I'm not going to tell you, hey, this is a good time to laugh.
Telling it implies something very different than telling is almost a command. You do this thing rather than you can do this if you want to,
right.
if it feels right.
If I show you a scene and it's very intricate and it shows how skilled this character is, I want you to know this guy's very skilled. But whether you take that, whether you're smart enough to interpret that and figure that out for yourself, I don't care. I don't care if you hate this character. I don't care if you like this character. That's not why I showed you it. You can react any way you like. I'm not telling you how to feel or showing you how to feel. That is a completely separate entity.
Showing you how to feel. I don't know. I feel like you're directing something. And you're like, all right, this is the sad part. I can understand somebody trying to convey that to the audience, right? You understand that part? I feel like that's all he's saying.
Well, no. He's using the comparison between showing and telling, and then saying showing and gameplay. And that to me, that's a medium choice. And now he's going back and saying, when you tell someone something, that's a technique. When you show someone something, that's a technique. But it's to show you how to feel, and you're like, that's a reaction to whatever's happening on the screen or on the page.
I see what you're getting at. But okay, I'm just interpreting it differently because my understanding of it is
my understanding of just right is that everything's subjective. I have to feel something, therefore I'm going to feel best if you show me how to do something, which is not wrong. It's just a dumb explanation of why you have that technique.
To elicit an emotion, you mean?
Yeah, that's not the purpose of prose. I mean, that's silly. I could write anything for any reason. It's not to make you feel something. It could be.
Okay, but if I'm like, if you're trying to tell, I'm just trying to clarify because you're like, if I'm writing a story and I have a moment where the character is unable to save the puppy from dying. That's supposed to be sad, right? I'm supposed to present that in a sad way. So
but in the context of you saying, did they actually save the puppy, or did you tell me about they were saving the puppy? That's the distinction he's making.
You mean like how you convey it, like
no. Because he's making the distinction between showing and telling. So if I say Bob saved the puppy, as opposed to Bob walked over and put his body over the decrepit, sad little tiny dog, and he braced the force of the impact against his back, and it's like, oh wow, this is getting really involving. I could feel something from that, but it's not the point of the scene. The point of the scene is to describe what this character is going through, how we're characterizing that person through their actions.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I say, okay, now I'm understanding how you're distinguishing it. It's not necessarily. It's the point of the story is to talk about the characters and everything that's happening. It's not necessarily how the audience reacts to that given situation. You're just trying to be as accurate and authentic to the story and the plot and the characters. Is that kind of?
It's the technique of showing. I mean, it's basic stuff. This is like you don't just talk about stuff. That's not writing. Writing scenes is not writing. You show what's happening in the world. You show action. You show conflict. You show things happening. You don't just say, hey, here's Bob. He's a repairman, and he likes tobacco. And you're like, okay. Whereas you could just show him doing that thing, chewing tobacco and repairing things, and he's breaking his nails or whatever. He's biting on them. He's got some character going with him just by this one sentence. So he's trying to make that distinction as a technique, because he said this is a technique in writing. You're right. But he's then lacing it with, I want to know how to feel, and you need to show me how to feel. It's like, no, it's not.
I see. That's what I was trying to understand. I get it. Yeah. Now there's clearly a distinction between the craft of the story and how the characters would be feeling and how the audience is supposed to.
And this is why I think Just Right, people like it, because he says things very quickly and simply. But when you actually understand what he's talking about, it's like, yeah, that's the technique, but that's not why you use it.
Gotcha. I got
All I'm thinking about right now is how much Smud's better explaining things than I am.
So that helped out so much, because now I understand what the issue is.
Okay.
I forgot that. Oh yeah, and the kind of inference what he's trying to make about what we kind of explained as play don't show is that is something which
Play
doesn't
don't tell.
play don't tell. Yeah, well, it's very different because you should be in. Well, the idea of what I think he's trying to get across is that you should play these events rather than being shown these events.
Rather than being told the events.
Well, yeah.
That's why I was like, that's
always,
so basic.
it doesn't always apply to everything within the old rule of show don't tell, because show don't tell kind of applies to everything from dialogue to things which actually happen, but you can't show.
Oh, it's just play don't show. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it was something different.
Yeah, he's juxtaposing between those two ideas, then bringing it back to literary technique.
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. So he's putting forward the idea that you play a scene rather than show the scene, but the rule he's trying to put forward doesn't really work as a rule, more as I suppose a guideline for it. It requires. It depends. Show don't tell always works. It's just a rule. It's always going to be better to show.
I don't agree with that at all.
Well, it's always going to be better to show an emotion rather than tell an emotion. It's always better to show a scene rather than just say that scene happened. But when it comes,
you can get context from picking up a piece of paper if you walk into a room and then reading something, and then you can have
no. That's not telling, because the telling is it's separate to dialogue and writing. They're two different things. So when you say telling is, hey, Jeff just walked down to the store, but you can still use dialogue to so like Jeff goes to the store, he comes back and he puts something down and he has a conversation that is still involving dialogue, that is still, and that's not telling. There's two distinctions made between telling and dialogue and writing.
I don't know
what my original point is. So that doesn't quite apply when it comes to the idea of play don't show, because you can't play everything. You can't play every little minute detail. You can't play showing characterization between two people. So it's not quite an all-round rule as show don't tell.
I don't know if that's
I
true.
kind of agree. No, I kind of agree what he's kind of maybe saying, because Half-Life 2 does this really well. The idea that you don't have any cutscenes, but Half-Life 2 still shows you things. It shows you the
okay, guys,
like the relationship between Alex and
we were going over it again. We get it. I get it. But that wasn't what I was distinguishing. I was just trying to make sure, chat, that
no, I was moving on to what he was saying.
I wanted to make sure that I was understanding what he was saying, because I felt like I was getting two different things. Plus, I disagreed with the idea that this game does that. That's all I wanted to know, because Smud was giving me an explanation about the intention of a scene. Okay, I was not understanding that from Smud's point of view, it's the what is going on diegetically in the story is more important than what the audience is receiving, and I found that very interesting. That's something that I don't think about. Smud comes from it a little bit differently than I do when it comes to writing. Very much more character based, and I'm always learning new stuff. So I'm sorry that we went on an aside. That helped me. Okay, that was very important for me. We can move on now. We don't have to talk.
Yeah, I think we spent way too much time on it.
We don't have to do anything, and we don't have to add on to the show don't fucking tell thing. If you guys all get it, we don't have to say anything else.
I wasn't really talking about what you were like going on about before. I was more moving on to what he brings up.
Well, I want to actually hear what he brings up, because I feel like I don't even know anymore.
My point was that it's not quite an all-round rule than show don't tell, and it doesn't quite work the same as that rule.
You can all the rules are guidelines, and then you can use them well. That's all. Let's go.
It's a very good guideline.
All right, here's EC Cons. Thank you, sir. There's a difference between telling the audience how the character feels, Tommy Wiseau saying "tearing me apart," and how the audience feel themselves. That's true. So we don't concern ourselves with the audience and their reaction. We hope for the best. We say this we think is funny, or this we think is dramatic and serious, and then hopefully we know what we're talking about because we're experienced or we've been taught how to do so, and hopefully that joke lands or that scene works for you, and that's the best we can get.
I like that.
John Lemley, Jeopardy themed at MP. Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
We can keep moving.
Let's keep going.
Sorry, I went to go take a toke. What did I miss?
No, nothing. Don't worry. We're
Keep
good.
moving.
Okay.
Yep,
Then Joel decked him,
more of a push.
and then you got mad at Joel. That part confused me.
When you first hear this, you take in the information, but you don't feel the emotion of the scene. But then later in one of the game's many flashbacks, you get to see the scene in full. We don't learn much of anything new by seeing it play out. The beats are the same, but this time we really feel the emotion. We can't just be told that Ellie is...
See, this is just his subjective interpretation of the scene. Because I see the scene, I feel more. Well, of course you feel more. You see character faces, and they're talking, and they have expressions. Great.
Yeah,
It's called acting. Fantastic. I mean, this is why people like Mass Effect when it came out, because it had talking Dr. Paul Ekman heads, fully articulated faces. You identify with faces. It's a miracle and phenomenon of humanity. Fantastic. Nothing to do with emotions. That just happens to be a phenomenon we react to. That's it.
If you want to go get immersed in something like there's a bar fight that happens in a scene, do you want to be the character that actually observes the entire fight and gets involved, or do you want someone to just sort of make a passing comment, say, yeah, I didn't go to the party last night, there was a bar fight?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is why super popular
The
channels
story works
on
either way.
YouTube have people with a mini cam or whatever the picture-in-a-picture thing is with their face, because they can identify what the person's saying when they see their face. It's a simple thing. That's why I'm not very popular. I don't really care about... I have put my face, but I don't care. It's not a big deal. I want people to listen to what I'm saying. So, yes, we identify with people's faces a lot. We identify with motion and action more. We get it. It's called acting.
I don't understand why you do it this way round, though, where you make a passing... where you do the passing bit of dialogue first and then show what happened, as opposed to you show the big event in question and then you make a call back to it through a line of dialogue later, and then you can be like, oh yeah, that happened.
They love their flashbacks in this game. It's obscene.
As opposed to when you put the dialogue first and say, oh yeah, there was a fight and Joel decks someone, and I go, really? Oh. And then it happens 3 hours down the line, and I go, oh, that was that thing Ellie was mumbling about.
And it's a great experience when the person you've seen is already dead, and then you flash back to a scene when they're alive. You're like, oh, I know what's going to happen to this guy.
Being a jerk.
I don't care. I'm wit for this creature, because I know he's going to be a pile of meat in another 2 hours. So,
well, one thing that they might have, they should have done is maybe have the Ellie allude to Joel being still around, and then you reveal he's actually dead. That would probably be just something that kind of came into my mind. So that just because then you would actually have some level of shock value, because you already know Joel's going to die.
If that scene where Joel died was immediately followed by a scene of Abbey getting killed or getting hurt, you would alleviate the shock from Joel, because you see the villain doing the villainous thing, and then the villain gets hurt in the process. Like, oh, something has happened to the thing we hate. Good. And then we can keep going with that. So we know they're hurt. He's like, yeah, we're going to get you. That's the whole thing about revenge. You want to take that journey with the hero to see what they get. With like Inigo Montoya, we have no idea about this guy's background aside from he loved his dad, and his dad was a blacksmith. That's it. But he loved his dad. He spent his entire life seeking revenge. He's a pathetic man. He's broken. He's sad half the time. He's drunk half the time. We learn about that. And then he finally gets to his goal, and it's like he's on fire. It's all he thinks. Everything's perfect. He's getting stabbed in the chest. He doesn't care. He's keeping nothing stopping him. It's magic. How is this happening? It's a movie. Oh yeah, it's magic. That's the point. It's amazing. It's this beautiful thing. And in this case, it's supposed to be realistic and brutal and gritty and depressing, and then it becomes stupid. There's no magic left. It's just, why haven't you killed everyone yet, Abbey? You have the upper hand. You've had the upper hand several times now. It's stupid.
I'm gonna go back to the aquarium for reasons.
Yeah.
Well, you see, Ellie is one of these things we call a retard.
It's a combination of plot armor, contrived scenarios, and a lack of plot, really. It's a bunch of things scrambled. And then you have the mishmash of all the flashbacks and the jumping between Ellie and Abbey. It's just, oh god, it's a mess. Anyway.
Say that again.
I want to see his feelings about the dance scene where he kisses Ellie. It's great. It's fantastic.
Mad at Joel, we need to be shown.
You all right, kiddo?
What is wrong with you?
He had no right.
And you do?
This is also why you can't just read the leaked spoilers for a story and decide whether you like it or not without actually experiencing the game.
Oh.
Going there. Like, oh, well, you didn't play the game, so you don't get to say anything. It's like, no, what happened was that people said, no, we don't want this out of a story. When we don't like this idea, we're not going for this. And it's like, what we're going to do is we're going to sit back, we're going to wait, and thanks to these leaks, we're going to be very careful before going in. And then guess what? People were careful before going in. The game was shit. Oh, look, no one wants to play it. The leaks fucking saved people money. They saved people. Like, imagine if a lot of people had no idea going in that this game was going to be so shit. That would have caused so many more problems. But whoever leaked it out is a fucking lifesaver to a lot of people.
I think we could disprove the false equivalence between show don't tell and leaks versus playing the game. I've hated every comment. The build up to this release of the game. Oh, you shouldn't talk about the story until you buy the game and play. It's like, listen, I watched several hours of it. I think I have enough context to figure out what's going on with a scene, even if I don't know every backstory of every character. I think acting has been taught for thousands of years now. We know how it works, and we don't need to know details.
Doesn't this fly in the face of how advertising something works? You look at it, you read it, and you go, yeah, this isn't for me, and then you don't buy it because you decided it wasn't for you.
It wasn't made for you.
Anyone who goes and tries to make an in-detailed critique based on what they've heard from leaks and not experiencing the full thing, I can understand reservations about why you would want to listen to that person's perspective because they don't have a full picture. Like, why would you do an in-depth critique of a game that you decided you didn't like based on the leaks and you haven't seen anything more than that? That part I can understand.
Obviously, you want to get the most intense experience, the best experience. If there's an extended cut edition or whatever you want more content, that's fine. But we don't need to play through 25 hours to analyze one scene. Okay?
It's not even... So, like, what they're hinging this on is that I'm going to play through the game and that the story is going to convince me that my notions about who I care about are going to change, that I'm going to suddenly care about Abbey more. And I'm just wondering what the point of that is. Like, are you trying to prove a point that Neil is such an amazing storyteller that he can change my mind about which character I care about? Because that's not me. That's not the person you're writing for. I don't work like that.
Well, you can obviously observe the process of how they tried to get that to happen, but like
Themes of Wild Devil has appeared.
Yeah, you can. But you can break down the techniques in writing used to try and elicit that emotion from someone, but you cannot say that this is the emotion they made you feel, because obviously how you react to a piece of media is your own. You can only observe how the writers attempted to make that happen. Whether or not it worked for you is what you dive into. It's like, okay, so why didn't it work for me? Is it a personal reason, or is it something that the writing failed to do?
Wow, you're still only 3 minutes in.
It's a contentious topic.
It's just right, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's just wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it's
There's no wonder
you're gonna get one argument that you hear over and over again after another, and so we sit there, we break it down, we get so annoying that chat wants us to move on. It's great.
So are we sexist or are we racist or what are we this time?
We haven't got we are not there yet. We are at this point judging the movie game because we looked at the leaks. That's our problem.
Yeah, and we're not allowed to talk about it because we didn't play it yet.
Oh yeah, that's right. You can't say poison is bad unless you've tried it first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Here, take this
That
hemlock.
is about the equivalency.
Mad Courier 6, thank you, sir. You done with your daily PC exorcism, Devil? No, that thing never is going to end. It's always going to happen. There's nothing the devil can do about it.
No, it's. I think it's a hardware issue. So I might just have to buy a new one to get rid of all that problem stuff.
Oh no.
I had to burn down the house and rebuild it. That's like the evil version of Ben Sisko said.
Well, not right now. Don't burn the house. Who's that? It was someone knocking something down. Jesus.
Um,
Someone in their kitchen in frustration.
Someone's making Marmite.
Can't open their Marmite bottle.
I was trying to turn my light on, and I kicked a ball.
Why is there a bowl on the floor?
That was my tea.
Okay.
It's fine.
There's tea everywhere, all over your house, isn't it?
Oh no. Oh, we call voice. Do you want to explain this?
The other thing is that we have super chats so often that
So we're
we
just
keep getting
to
derailed.
explain, tea. We also have tea. We fuck it. We call dinner.
What?
We call dinner. And the reason why is because the idea of the third meal of the day did come from afternoon tea. So we kind of just called it afternoon tea, shortened down to tea, and everyone else in the world just calls it dinner. That's the best explanation.
It's like apples and pears. No, I have no idea. Okay, forget it. All right. Bogue, thank you, sir. You can't say being a Nazi is bad until you try being a Nazi. See how stupid this sounds? Then again, it wasn't made for me. Oh, well.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not sure who this was made for.
It was made for people who just want to say things are awesome.
Yes.
Evil
That's
is
it.
good. Pain is
Pretty
good.
much.
It was good because it made certain.
It's
It was
the
good
best.
because it made us angry. It made us angry,
Yeah.
so therefore it was good.
It made
Yes, it
you
made
feel
the chuds
something.
angry.
Yes.
Made the chuds angry, exactly.
Yourself. Or when it comes to the villain character you want to humanize, the story can't just tell me I should feel bad for them. I need to be shown a reason to care. But showing
True.
scenes from
Why?
the villain's perspective isn't
No,
just
that's true. I would rather be shown why someone is X than told. More effective than being told. More fast or
I don't know about that. What if I hate this character and I don't want to play them for 10 hours to try and get this pseudo effect on me?
What if Monroe made a game? What if Monroe made a game? And the game opened with Hitler just caving in the skull of Captain America, and then we played as Hitler for 10 hours. Would that is that the same thing? Where we are supposed to be expected to think it's awesome, and then relate to Hitler? Is that would that be the same argument there?
Literally Hitler.
Literally Hitler.
I
The
would,
player's literally Hitler.
if they want to
you
go
go
that
through the whole
route.
thing. Like you go through the whole, you take the Reichstag, everything, from beginning to end, from World War One, his time in World War I to go back all the way down to where you got rejected at art school. Just so you can sympathize with him. Would that work? Would that be awesome? Just right?
I would rather be told. I'd rather be shown than told in stories. That's just a given. So
Yeah, somebody made the serious statement that this game is the Schindler's List of video games, and I was just thinking how funny it would be to play a video game where you're playing as what's his name, Amon Goth or whatever, and he's sniping random
yeah.
people.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
hey, this is a fun gameplay
Yeah.
segment. Let's do that. Schindler's List
I
of video
absolve
games.
you. I absolve you. Never mind. That's dumb. Let's go start killing people again. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Here I go murdering again.
Oh boy.
Guess that was exactly him. Oh boy, here I go murdering again. That was Amon Goth. Yeah.
here's John Lemley. I honestly wouldn't even mind if this is the new record holder for long man video length. I don't know. I don't want voice to get too tired. I don't want Shine to be too exhausted, and I want LiteratureDevil's hardware to
I'm perfectly
last for more than an hour. So
I'm perfectly awake right now, so I'm happy to go as long as the stream is happy to stay alive.
this will be along for till 10:30. I'm just telling you right now.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Let's hear some more fucking genius big brain take.
We're not
That's
even
what we're
3 minutes
talking
in.
about in The Last of Us 2. In an interactive medium, the game designers have a much more powerful weapon at their disposal than just showing us the character's story.
You
By
can
making
play
us
as it.
control Abbey,
Yeah,
it forces
exactly.
us to see the world from her perspective.
Oh,
Earlier
it's
when I was talking
fucking
about Ellie's
cool.
section of the game, I was using the word you, because whoever you're playing in a video game, you feel as if you are them. And Naughty Dog does this because, part 2, Naughty Dog wants to f*** with you.
Okay, so first off,
Yeah,
before you change the
business and
subject, you are making a statement about the fact that you get to play as the characters, but if you aren't in control of anything other than the little gameplay segments, then you aren't really. You're on the rails. What I feel like when I'm playing The Last of Us or Uncharted is I feel like an actor that's playing out the movie that is Uncharted. Like I have to complete this segment, and it's like a train segment where I have to go do this specific thing. How many different ways are there to succeed at this thing? You know, and specifically in that, at least they opened it up a little bit in The Last of Us 2 so that you can solve a given area a little bit more with more options. But like the script is going to be on the rails. I'm watching a movie in video game form.
There's no narrative choices, and this is an interesting quote from Yahtzee when he was talking about Mass Effect. It was like picking up a book and then throwing it across the room so you can go pick it up again and read it. In this game, there's nothing to throw. You're just reading a book. It's just a really big, intricate page to move around from level to level.
And then again, he's like, you know, to just point out, you know, what if you played as Hitler, right? Like you're playing Call of Duty World War II, and you're playing the D-Day sequence or whatever, and everyone's, you know, oh shit, we're going out. And then all of a sudden you switch to be the machine gunner, and it's Hans, and it's like, kill some Hans, kill all the Americans. And then, you know, you have Just Right, and he's like, oh yeah, of course, Activision wants to fuck with you. Like, oh, that's great. That's what I need.
Thanks, Just
Why
Right.
is it a good thing? Yeah, I mean, that could be a good thing from a certain point of view. But why is that just in and of itself? That's not really a good thing. Just tell me why it's a good thing. It has to be done for the correct reason. Like, okay, we're going to mess with you a little bit. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5 kind of did that really relatively acceptably, I would say, adequately. But this is just messing with you for just messing with you's sake.
Oh, hey, Ryan Johnson was just trying to mess with you. That's why it's on a salt planet. Ha 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 ha. It was
pretty much
to piss you off.
Well, can we just say that about the same thing about the Joker movie? Anything that they hate, can we just say the same thing? Oh, they're trying to mess with you. They're trying to subvert your expectations.
It's like, oh, it was purposely trying to make you angry. That doesn't solve the problem that we're angry.
Joke's on you. I was purposely trying to be stupid. That doesn't really work that way. No, the Yahtzee.
The problem is like, okay, the problem's we're angry. Why are we angry? Oh, because they intentionally made us angry. Well, we still got the problem here.
And speaking of Yahtzee, there's another, when he was reviewing Borderlands, he mentioned Claptrap. He's like, okay, I understand this thing is intentionally there to intentionally annoy me, but it's still annoying me. I'm still annoyed at the very end of the day. I don't care if it was on purpose or by accident. I'm still annoyed, and that's it. That's where I'm coming from.
We're smart enough to see the manipulation, but it's like we still have to go through with it in order to progress.
Like, oh, Ezra's supposed to be an insufferable little cunt. Well, that doesn't solve the problem. He's an insufferable little cunt.
I just want to point out that there's someone in the chat who's disagreeing with us. Elmo, imagine comparing Last of Us 2 to the fucking Nazis. Jesus Christ, these dudes are sad.
Wait,
I
what?
didn't make that comparison, genius. I'm not the idiot journalist that said this game is so deep. It's like Schindler's List. Asshole. I didn't fucking come up with that. And as for complaining about like characters that you die, I'm the opposite of you. I don't like any of the characters. I'm not a fan of The Last of Us. I was never convinced that it was good in the first place and anything more than a video game ripoff of Children of Men. So you're really gonna have to do better than that, and then just saying, "Oh, we're complaining about it."
I'm going to talk about Nazis some more. I'm going to go ahead and compare everything about this game to the Nazis. Is that okay with you? Is that fine? Let's see here. Also,
I think the Devil's gone a bit too crazy again.
What are you supposed to compare this video game to? What other video game is like this in any right? Because here's the point: what other game does the creator of this? What other game creates an intentionally annoying, pissing off the audience game? Let me think. It's Metal Gear Solid 2. Now, people were really upset about that, but then they learned to appreciate it. Why is that? Oh, because Metal Gear Solid 3 was the fan pandering that everybody actually wanted. It's what was contingent on being made, on making the rest of the series work. So people actually got what they wanted, and then they could go back and look at the thing where they didn't really get what they wanted, and they could appreciate Raiden, who then became an amazing character in Metal Gear Rising. Guess what's not going to happen in Last of Us 3? What are you going to do? You're going to make a game about Abbey? You'll be the only one enjoying it, dude.
Also, on the note, the thing I mentioned earlier about Yahtzee saying, that it can be intentionally annoying, and it's working, but I'm still annoyed. You can't intentionally make your audience angry and then be surprised that they're angry. They're still angry at the end of the day. Okay, you still made them angry.
Oh, we're so stupid to be angry at a video game that you were expecting us to enjoy a certain way, and then you were proud of subverting, and then you're upset that we weren't smart enough to also be as nihilistic and annoyed with the characters as you are. Sorry that we
We're,
actually liked characters that you didn't like. Or
We're
something.
obviously the dumb ones. We're obviously dumb ones for being angry at a game, then intensely tried to make us angry.
And again, I'm not even angry. I'd never liked any of this. I'm judging it with a completely external perspective, like, hey, this is what you did to your fans, so enjoy that. This is all you. I didn't create any of this.
You can just bluff and say that, yeah, we intended to make this game annoy people.
When the creator actually says not everyone's going to like this game, it's like, oh, really? And then the actual voice actor, Troy Baker, says pretty much the same thing. You're like, oh.
He tried to warn us before bending the knee.
And Troy Baker's
Keep it open
role in
mind.
the game was so
Keep it
limited.
open mind.
His acting was...
you can't critique a poison unless you drink the whole bottle.
Yeah.
You can't look around and say, oh, yeah, like everyone else who drank this died. Well, I can't say it was actually bad right until I drink the whole bottle myself. So let me go ahead and do that.
Acting like I've never played games like Spec Ops: The Line, which did this, where it's like, oh, you were the bad guy the whole time. How about you were a madman? Everybody's going crazy. Everybody's a bad person. It's all falling apart. But all of the characters' actions make sense given the context that's instructed of them. You're supposed to do this because of your duty. Then you want to do this because of morals. And then you make these decisions because you're delusional and you realize that you have to take responsibility for it. That is an interesting storytelling thing. What this is it's basically like if I took your hamster, your pet hamster that you got from your girlfriend or whatever, and I beat it in front of you. And I went, why do you care about a hamster? It's just a fucking hamster. Like, oh, it's because it's a real thing. Or, oh, it's how you can compare it to Nazis because that's a real thing. Schindler's List was just a movie or whatever. It's like, how many excuses do you need to make before you just admit you don't give a shit?
Spec Ops: The Line did this the same thing that this game tried to do, but better, as far as I've seen. And this War of Mine did it way better, way better. The whole making you do bad things scenario.
The hamster analogy is a little extreme, but I think I know what you mean.
Well, it's like so you have
It's not exactly going in with the idea of pissing people off. It's comparing if it was if the writing was solidly executed in comparison to how people reacted and whether that was the fault of the writing or the fault of the fans.
I'm looking at it on a macro scale. Like from the interesting thing to me from The Last of Us 1 was the factions and how they were, what their goals were. Because the macro goal had to do with the overall theme, which is, to me, the motif that I was seeing was that Joel and his surrogate daughter, is that more important than risking her life to potentially save all of humanity? That's an interesting storyline. That's an interesting hinging thing. That is a macro level event that has to do with consequences for the entire world. Is there a piece of that in The Last of Us 2 where someone has some sort of plan or there's more than one or two factions that are doing something? What is going on in the world building outside of this revenge story? And that has been my criticism of the story the whole time. It's like, yeah, you're fucking with me because you're subverting my expectations by not adding anything beyond window dressing for this narrative that you're presenting to me.
Yeah, I think that the flaw in the writing in The Last of Us 2 from that standpoint is that it almost does the same thing in the sense that Ellie this whole game goes through the whole revenge thing and then finds out through gruesome events that maybe it isn't worth it and goes back to life as normal, but then decides to do the revenge. Then
a little too late.
The revenge plot again and is asked to choose between if this is what you want, you're going to lose everything you've worked towards. But that isn't a decision for the audience to who are playing the game to make, because Ellie goes to go exact revenge anyway, and obviously she loses everything, and then she throws it all away again at the very end. So
let me see here. Does the player get choices in this game? Can they choose to go through the game instead of killing everyone? Is there like a stealth option,
Nope.
or is there like an option not to kill all these people?
No.
I didn't think so. Also, I'm guessing some people might have forgotten about the entire first game where Ellie not only helps Joel kill a lot of people, but also has an entire segment all to herself where she kills a bunch of people. So how come all of a sudden Ellie, oh, you killed my dad, I guess I can let you go because killing is wrong suddenly.
All those other people that died, though, they were worth it. It was worth killing 200 people just to learn this dumbass lesson I could have learned in 5th grade or whatever.
I think Ellie has a larger body count than John Wick. But Ellie's fine. Ellie can go away. Ellie can live. I mean, Abbey can live.
She lost 2 fingers. It's okay. It's just like what is it? Left 4 Dead 2's like promo image.
Yes, but the thing with the comparison between the two is that you play through the entire game in The Last of Us 1, getting Ellie to this safe place so she can potentially be used to create a cure, and then you undo it all at the end because it comes at the cost of her life. So the journey ends up being for nothing in that sense of the word. That's the plot. But the microcosm, as you said, is bonding Ellie to Joel and making that decision at the end of the game make sense. The parallel between part 2 would be the plot is getting revenge, but the microcosm is Ellie figuring out that maybe the cost is too great. But obviously, you go through the game, and then that decision is made for you 2/3 of the way through the game, and then you continue to play anyway, only to then turn back at the last minute and essentially make it all for nothing. But you also haven't really learned a lesson in any way because you don't understand why she's gone, yes, I will throw everything away for revenge twice, and then deny that outcome twice.
Okay, I'm going to read some super chats. We're going to keep on going, guys. We've got a lot to cover. Linkensky, TLO2 was intended as is. That's the problem. Yes, they made this very specifically. They even cut out content to make it the way it is. They had some stuff planned for the beginning where you actually play as Abbey and you actually have her join, was it Jackson, and then get to know people, and then she finds out who's there, and then voila, she enacts her plot of revenge. Even that would have worked better because you would get to know someone beforehand, even in a passing sense. And then you see, oh, this is why she was really here. As opposed to, bam, no identification, no association, just boom, she's a villain, and then you dug yourself in a hole, and you have to climb right out with the audience, and it doesn't work very well.
Another game that they took out the main character from the previous and just replaced it for no reason was Crisis 2. You're supposed to have a limited amount of these Delta Force armor units or whatever, but then the guy gets infected or something, and then he has to kill himself, and you're just this busted up Marine that takes over the armor. It's like, what was the point of that? Why not just have the same character? Is it because they didn't want to pay the voice actor or something? It makes you ask questions of the game that shouldn't be thought about. You should just be like, oh yeah, that's that character. Of course they would do that. They wouldn't make just like a dumbass decision and end up shooting themselves in the head for no reason, or for some sort of plot reason that is invented for the sake of the plot to move. That's one of my least favorite types of storytelling, is when you just add some new shit in. Like in the Predator, they come up with this super predator that can kill predators. And so then the original screenplay for this new film, it was supposed to be the predators and humans team up to kill the super predator. It's like, that's just boring storytelling. You have to change the canon. You have to change characters. They have to change the scenario of what we left off, because you can't figure out a way to extend that or take it in a new direction without doing that. That's what that says to me. It's really frustrating. Even Aliens, which changes like environment and changes a lot of things about the storytelling, doesn't necessarily change Ripley as a character. It really feels like Ripley going through the motions in a new light. It feels like a character that's going through something again and is flipping out because nobody understands.
I think we've gone off topic a bit. Again, we've only
it's more interesting than whatever Just Right's going to say with his sophistry. I don't care. But we can go on.
Okay, I got 2 more super chats, guys, and we'll keep going. John Lemley, joke's on you, we intentionally pissed you off, is the new. Next you'll say I was only pretending to be autistic. Well, no, it's...
Yeah, I heard that same rhetoric from Ryan Johnson, from a guy who leads Picard, Sergeant Picard. We're just trying to make you angry. We're actually trying to make you angry, trying to make you upset. Why?
We've already talked about this. We're only 3 minutes into the video.
That's the exact thing. This is so many things. So every single one of them. Same thing. That's what we keep hearing. Trying to make you upset.
And here's Lenny the Shark. 9. I was only pretending to be a Nazi.
Joke's on you.
You didn't ask for this, but there you are.
You didn't want this.
Here we are.
Oh yeah,
here we are.
Is Extra Credits going to do that? Are they going to make a thing where it says you didn't ask for this, you didn't want this, but you're playing? There you are. You're playing as Abbey, and it's just like playing as the Joel team.
If they had any principles, they would.
Yeah, but they don't.
I would totally buy their merch if that's what was on the T-shirt.
You didn't ask
You
for
didn't ask for this.
but here you are. You're playing Abbey.
I found myself humming the song that played at the dance long after the game ended. Doing so just immediately brought me back to that bittersweet, nostalgic feeling that scene
Really?
evokes. Then I found out that the song is a cover of Little Sadie by Crooked Still.
Oh, I didn't even know he was Canadian.
What?
What
I
is
did know-
strange. I've never heard someone hum this song of the dance at the end of the game. It's like you feel.
I just didn't know Just Right was Canadian. Is he Canadian?
I don't know. That's
I thought a Canadian out.
Yeah.
Picking little city to bury in the ground.
No
Little Sadie
copyright.
is a
No.
folk song about a man
Oh, yeah, watch out for the
in this
copyright.
Version, a woman who matter-of-factly tells us she killed the woman she's with.
Is
tried
that
to
a,
escape, got caught,
working-
and was thrown in jail? We don't really know why the
Whatever,
singer wanted to
stereo
kill Sadie,
or
and
CD
she
player?
doesn't appear to have any remorse about it either. But the heavy subject matter contrasts with the upbeat melody and the bright feeling of the story at that moment. The violence that is about to happen seems to be seeping into the scene. And that's exactly this game's MO. It wants to f with you. It wants to make you feel contradictory emotions as often as possible.
Okay, so somehow you
that's
related this song at the dance to be contradictory to the rest of the game. Like what?
This actually happens. It's called a counterpoint. Like in music, it's called counterpoint, right? So it's like a counter melodies going together. This has been writing too. It's really easy way to create irony. And what you do is like maybe, for example, I've actually used this example before. It's not irony. It creates tension. It creates tension. So maybe you have like a guy who is I don't know, wearing all black and he looks miserable, but he's at a birthday party. So it can be funny, it can be dramatic, depending on the situation. So yeah, you contrast these things like upbeat music versus downtrodden looking hero. You create tension. It makes you it's a way to get your audience interested. But what's the context for the dance? Does anyone know? Is there any reason for her to be sad other than just for the sake of the game?
Oh, it's just fucking. It's like everything that I see in these games, which is like, here's that moment. Do you feel it? You feel good about it? It's all gonna go away now. Like, yeah, I get it. I that was at the beginning of The
Wait.
Godfather.
That's it. That's the reason why the whole thing is upbeat, but Ellie's for some reason. Then why have contradictory settings there? Why have contradictory emotions? Just have one emotion, happiness and joy, because then you get the tragedy when it all gets taken away. It's not if you make it impure, if you corrupt it with sadness, then okay, we already see that there's sadness in there, so it's not such a big tragedy. She was already sad. I mean, yeah, she lost a little bit of her happiness, but she was already sad. Where's the change there?
And keep
Now,
in
if she
mind,
was happy,
this is a flashback, so we've already passed the threshold. We've already gone past normalcy to horror, and now we're jumping back. Like this is a flashback. We're going back to the beginning. Like, why are you doing it this way?
that's even worse. That's even a better reason to show us a mono emotion, like one emotional tone. So it should be happy. If this is supposed to be like a contrast of where she is now, she should be somewhere else, right? She should be. They even do this in John Wick in flashback style, where they have a little. We show him like happy and laughing on this video phone or his cell phone, a little video of them he and his wife being happy at a beach, and something becomes tragic when we see what happens afterward, where with her falling down at that beach, and then subsequently dying. That's how you get the tragedy. It's taking a dream world, a utopia, and taking it away from the hero. Now, it's not really a utopia or a dream world if they're already sad, if they're already miserable, or downtrodden, or whatever it is. So, yeah, not everything has to be miserable to be deep or complex or intellectual, Druckmann. Okay, sometimes if you want to go for this tone, you need to have one serious emotion here, which would be in this case happiness and or joy, so that you can take it away and make sure it's pure, so it can be taken away and it could be pure tragedy.
And there's the actual tone deafness of the failed attempt at trying to kill Abbey, where they go back to the farm and they're having a happy life, and it's so surreal. A lot of people thought, is this a dream? Are we like knocked out on the floor after Abbey punched the crap out of us and we were just hallucinating? Like, what's going on here? But it actually happens. It's so tone deaf. And it's so saccharine. You're like, this is like, we actually agreed to this? This is what Ellie wanted? And then she starts having panic attacks. And it's a panic attack of Joel getting killed. and she's like carrying a baby and what have you. So when you see her while she's killing Abby or trying to strangle Abby, and she has another flashback of Joel and he's just on a porch, you're like, oh, she's going to do it. And then why would she then shy away from that? Every reason what she's doing in this story is to get to Abby. And we have all this motivation. We have all this stuff she's lost. Her friend, her lover, her dad figure, all these other characters. And to pull back from that makes zero sense.
So does the player get an option of whether or not to kill Abby? Is there like a killer or
No choice.
or spare her life?
No choice whatsoever.
Then what's the lesson we're supposed to be learning here? We don't get the choice to make the lesson at the end. We don't get to teach it. They don't get to teach us because we don't even get to make that choice in the end. We don't get to say like, go ahead and kill Abby so that they can. Oh, and then we learn that that actually, the ending, having two different endings. If that's because that's what the stated message of the video game was, right? It teaches that the cycle of revenge is bad suddenly, and so just have a scenario at the very end where we get to choose to kill Abby, and if we do kill Abby, then it's where Ellie's hunted down because of that ending. If we don't kill Abby, then we get to see, they could become I don't know. She lets her go for some reason, and it's a better ending. Better ending versus worse ending for Ellie at the end, because we're invested in Ellie. Okay, we like her. We want her to be happy. We want her to succeed. We want her to live a happy life, or the happiest life she can possibly have, given the scenario. So that'll compel the player at the very end to maybe spare Abby's life, so that Ellie can end up in a better position than she is at the beginning of the game. But if we don't get that choice, then we don't get that. We don't make that decision. You take away the agency from the player, and so the lesson is kind of plays itself out without us.
Oh, here's a giant super chat from John Lemley. Thank you, sir. That awkward moment when Kanye does a better job explaining why he chose to subvert audience expectations on the Yeezus intro than a bunch of writers and directors that are vaunted into working on beloved IPs. Oh boy, that's
Kanye. Is Kanye really going out there proving Druckmann and Johnson all inferior and into and artistic genius to him?
I gotta look that one up.
That'd be funny if that was. That'd be fantastic. I would like that.
Well, anything that brings sorrowness into the world, you just like. Again, you're the devil. You enjoy this shit.
In fact, if it's a scenario where I can collect more tears, it's fantastic.
It still could have been a tragic ending with the death of Abby. It still could have been bittersweet. It still could have been all these things, but it instead became nothing. Everything is meaningless. You did not acquire what you wanted, even though you could have gotten it. The story was unfulfilled, which is just... This is not why we have stories, guys.
I think it's been far more
maybe
impactful if after all this and Ellie gets what she wants and then finds out that she was right all along. Her friends were right all along. It brought her no peace.
Sure.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm going to equate it to something else. So, your cautionary tales, right? What's the one thing that happens in pretty much every cautionary tale? Let me go a little boy down to the famous one from the Bible. What about the prodigal son? That one's famous. People tend to know that one. What does the prodigal son do? Does he just learn his lesson and learn all the lessons he learns at the end of the story, at the beginning of the story? Is the prodigal son, is that story known for the prodigal son respecting his dad, respecting his dad's fortune, and learning or exemplifying the best way to respect one's parentage and fortune, or does he actually go to the things we're supposed to avoid in life? If you remember correctly, he does and performs the wrong action, so that we learn that what not to do. That's a common occurrence in many of these cautionary what not to do tales. These things we're supposed to take lessons from. So the prodigal son is supposed to be a tale watching the son do all the wrong things, spend all of his money, give away it all, and then return home a failure. And it's good that his father accepts him back, but we get to see through his mistakes and his incorrect actions what not to do, what to not take money for granted, not take use your parentage as a bank account, essentially, not to when you have a lot of money, give it away or spend it frivolously. And it's the same thing with a lot of cautionary tales. So if we're supposed to see that the cycle of revenge is indeed bad, then Ellie should have killed Abby. So we get to see her make the wrong choice. And then we get to learn that revenge is bad.
And you would have
And
thought that
things-
with Abby, because to her, revenge is great. She sleeps better. She gets all she wanted. She rekindles her relationship with Owen. So everything that Abby does is good. She saves kids. She pets dogs. But Ellie, the exact opposite.
Her life is good again. It only falls apart when she starts going off and doing other things. And obviously, then Ellie takes an interest in murdering random people that are always somehow close to Abby, but never actually Abby herself.
I don't understand why I should care about any of these characters at this point.
The whole idea was
point.
the cycle of revenge, but then again, if no one's there to avenge her, well, the cycle's kind of stopped. Surely
Yeah.
Abby would want revenge on Ellie because all of her friends are now dead.
Yeah, there's no one else to
Hey, I murdered all your
revenge.
friends trying to murder you.
Is that the lesson at the end of the game? If you kill everyone who wants revenge on you, then the cycle of revenge stops.
Well, that's the
You end
funny
up-
thing. With Abby, she would have killed Ellie right after she would have killed Joel. The only reason why that didn't happen is Owen stopped everyone, and Abby respects Owen. So Owen stops Manuel, and the other guy, I think his name was Jason or something. And then the second time they meet, she's about to kill Dina and her unborn child. She's taking delight in it. But Lev says, no, you shouldn't do that. All right, fine, I won't do it. And then third time, she's like, I'm so tired. I've been strung up here for I don't know how many months. She's starved, and she just says, I can't do this anymore. And she's delirious a bit. She goes through with it, and it's just this strange setup that doesn't have a payoff. And you've been told this whole thing that revenge is good. It works. It makes you sleep at night. It makes you get on with your life. What's going to happen to Ellie? She's going to have more panic attacks.
Well, revenge works in the sense that, yes, it makes you feel good and, you clear the air, but of course it's temporary if someone actually seeks revenge on you for it in return.
Well, I think the best way to describe revenge in fiction is revenge is kind of hollow. So in most fiction, it's something that the character focuses on, and it's all they can think about. And when they achieve that revenge, it's usually, it doesn't fix anything. It doesn't fix that the person they're trying to, avenge is no longer. It's not going to come back. It's not going to fix anything. If it's only just the idea of it's hollow.
Yes.
It's not going to do anything. That's what it should be going for.
The examples we have in even the show NCIS, we can go to Seasons of Mist with Gaiman. There's all sorts of stories where people need to do it because they are hollow on the inside. They feel nothing but a sense of personal justice. It's a need to achieve this thing. And once they get it, then they're awake again. They can live their life. Whether their life is pain and suffering after that is no difference. They don't care. But it's a need they need to fulfill in order to move forward. They cannot live without it. And there's a clever thing, I don't know if it's clever for I think the 200th episode of NCIS, they show a what if. What if Gibbs did not shoot the killer of his family? What would happen to him? He was a destroyed man. He was regretting that, the entire alternate reality he was in. So he needed to do this thing. And I don't know if that's an American thing or that's just, a plot thing. That's the point of the story. But it always comes down to it's something that has to be achieved in order for life to continue or to even end your life, because that's why you did everything anyway. You had a wake of destruction. My life as a person is over, but I don't care because this is why I'm alive. So for Ellie to make no realization, like no revelation occurred. She just dropped the ball.
And she just gave up.
Exactly. It's like, why?
And then she gave up.
She gives up. It's like she says go and just take him. It's like, okay, you know what? What was the point again? What was this all about? What did you buy the game for? You bought the game to get all of this?
Right. And it's not that she didn't get revenge. It's how and why she gave up. If the story was leading up to this revelation that revenge is bad, that certainly was nowhere in the narrative. Not one moment that ever happened. Even the 2-second flashback with Joel. That was a scene where she was angry at Joel, and she was, maybe I might learn to forgive him. So she's furious at Joel. She's been furious at Joel because of the lie he perpetuated. and they're trying to resolve this issue. And she's like, maybe I might.
It was legitimately all for nothing.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
So I am trying to figure out what's good about this. You know, people are like, "Oh my God, you didn't understand it." Like, no, I understood everything that I'm looking at. You know what I mean? I understood all of it. I'm trying to understand you. What the hell is wrong with you that you thought this was good?
Well, again, it like I said, the weight of the decision rests on Ellie gets her revenge, but loses everything that's close to her. But she makes it abundantly clear when she goes off for the third act of the game that she is prepared.
Of the film.
The third act of the game, she sacrifices everything she loves, but because she specifically still wants revenge, and she can't sleep well at night without it. So she's already made that decision. It wasn't like that wasn't like the big decision as she's got Abbey pinned under the water. It's like, if I do this, I'll lose everything. No, she's already committed to that.
Right. And the idea, the insinuation is that now she seeks forgiveness or redemption. It's like, no, there is no plot shift. It's one plot, and then the plot is dropped. Nothing else is picked up. If she was picking up another plot, like forgiveness or redemption, or I want to help people now, that's not in the story. I'm sorry, it's not there. And if it was, they should have made it abundantly clear, aside from a 2-second scene of a guy on a porch playing with a guitar. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
A better way to handle it probably would have been to reveal, like, you know, when Abby finally gets her revenge, she doesn't feel any better, and it doesn't help.
Yes.
And the only way she ends up feeling better is by finding meaning in other people, you know, creating new friendships and relationships. And then, you know, that changes her. And then when Ellie is about to, you know, finish the thing, she sees that Abby's no longer that person, and Abby tries to explain to Ellie, it's like, I know what you're going through. I'm sorry for what I took from you. Something along the lines of, it's like, yeah, but what you're going through, it's not going to bring you any happiness. It's not going to help at all. It's like not that exactly, but something along those lines. And then that would probably be better to put forward the whole idea of revenge is bad, because again, as we were talking before, the story doesn't show that revenge is bad from the point of view of Abbey.
No, the story shows from my point of view that revenge is actually good, because now I see the consequences of not doing it. Now I know for sure that if somebody fucks with me, I'm going to kill them, because Abbey got away.
Yeah, and there's every reason to believe she's going to go for it again.
Why wouldn't she? What did she change? What? And it's like, what the game wanted to do was change the story from being about Joel and Ellie to being about Abbey. That's what it's all about. It's not about eloquent story or excellent or whatever. It's about changing the protagonist and then making you play as the bad guy, even though you're not a bad guy. Like, you're stupid for going on this whole adventure. You know, the person that you are upset that got killed dropped the ball. Everybody around them dropped the ball. Everybody that died was useless and incompetent. Like, good riddance to everybody that died in this game. They were a waste on the planet. What do you want me to conclude here? They're all kind of stupid.
If
it wasn't made for you, Glib.
Good.
It probably wasn't made for you.
Good. I want smart content.
You just don't. If you guys could just stop critiquing things, the world would be a better place to live. Okay.
Oh god, fucking taxing.
Of course. I get it. Yeah, I'm a modern day villain because I like values in my writing.
Patricia Taxon was so fantastic.
we seem to be going up against people that want to like have media that has no moral compass, and I'm like, fine, if that's your point, but at least make it interesting. At least make it more than just about like a revenge story. If this was about something like Game of Thrones, where it was all season 1 to 4 or whatever in the books, where it's about motivation, you know, how many straight up fucked up sociopathic psychopaths are there in Game of Thrones? It's only a few, really. Most people are just rational and brutal. They're not out to, you know, it's like the talk. I keep bringing it up because I understand that this is like the vibe that this show is trying to go for, where everybody's expendable. But like Robert Baratheon and Ned Stark have the conversation about killing Daenerys, and it's a moral conversation. If they were just like Abbey, or if one of them was like Abbey, you know, like Robert Baratheon, he's like, you know, kill her. and then the other character would just be like, "Yeah, sure, kill her, yeah, whatever," or not.
They ever see The Walking Dead?
No.
I mean, this that also had a show. That was also a show where people were pretty much expendable. Maybe except for the very very main character, which was the sheriff guy. I haven't watched it in so long. But I know the play by plays because I know Carl exactly, that guy. Yeah, Grimes. So that show, a lot of people die, but usually they're given like a little bit of screen time, and their death usually comes with some sort of reason or fanfare or something like that, or drama attached to it. And maybe they were a background character, and then one of the main characters started liking them a little bit more, and then they died or something.
And then they gave up.
And then they gave up. It wasn't just okay. You're dead out of nowhere. So, what is that? Did Joel get a lot of that sort of fanfare, or was he just he just kind of died?
He just died within a minute or two.
Let's keep moving along.
The literal main character of the last game just died like he was nothing.
Hey, yeah, I'm Joel. This is my brother Tommy, and we live down the street. You want to come? It's like, oh wait, your name's Joel. Oh, you're exactly who I need to kill. Bum.
All right, let's go through some super chats. We're at 3 minutes and 47 seconds. Oh, God. John Lemley, thank you, sir. In between the verses of the album intro, he inserts a sample that says, "Oh, will give us what we need. It may not be what we want." Yeezus was a massive sonic departure from the sounds of his other albums, and he was very abrasive. Well, I think his first two were the big thing that put him on the map, and I'm assuming this is his third or fourth. So, yeah, it's been a while since I've listened to Yahtzee. Or, sorry, to not Yahtzee.
Yahtzee's he's pretty spot on with a lot of these things, actually. Kanye, Yahtzee, same guy.
Yeezus, I was thinking Yahtzee. Okay.
Yahtzeezus.
Jesus.
Lynn Kensky, thank you, sir. The Last of Us didn't constitute a sequel. Agree. You know what? If it was that popular...
I would go with that. I would go with that, actually. I know the popularity of it would, of course, garner a sequel, but to me, The Last of Us 1 ended perfectly. It wasn't begging for a sequel.
No, absolutely.
I think it would work perfectly as a standalone work. It would be just fine.
You could definitely make a sequel work, but the problem is that this is it's open-ended enough to have a sequel. You could make a sequel work, but then you need to introduce a new motivation, a new plot that isn't. It's just this revenge story, because the whole goal of the first game is to get Abbey to this place, and now there is no such motivation. You need a reason for why they leave Tommy's town where they have the hydro dam and everything. But a good writer can definitely make that work, but it was not necessary by any means, and I definitely agree that it was a story that was closed off enough. We didn't need a sequel.
It's kind of like the Joker movie. I really would like a sequel, because I like that movie a lot, but I don't. On the other hand, I don't want one, because I
don't really need it.
Yeah, we don't need it. I know it might get one. I really would like one, but it doesn't need it. And I think a sequel might actually be a detriment to that movie.
Exactly.
So conflicted here. So I understand.
I just don't see the point of creating a sequel to something where you're just gonna wreck the characters, like physically, like just destroy them and debase them. Like what? Okay, so then what?
Corrupt them all.
The whole point of saving Ellie's life and Joel making this sacrifice was supposed to have meaning inherently, and she should stick with that. How can she be so fucking morose about everything? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This person sacrificed their life so that you could do something with that. Shouldn't the next point of the game be that they're trying to find a vaccine or a cure or something for this thing, or is this no longer relevant? I don't understand the motivations of characters anymore in this. Aside from Abbey being the center of everything and having a revenge thing that sets everything in motion, and whatever meta reason Neil had for doing that, I don't see a story.
Okay, I'm going to keep going. Mad Courier 6. Gibbs is a badass. Oh, yeah, he is a Marine. That's the general opinion of Marines. I wouldn't say they're all stalwart and stoic, but he is like not the pinnacle. He's kind of the framework. What is Gibbs? Leroy Jethro Gibbs on NCIS. He's a standard package deal with The Marines in the States? I don't know. I have no idea. Rin Wesley, do you think Druckmann was trying to convince the audience that Abby losing all her friends was vengeance enough for the loss of Joel?
Something like that.
Not really.
Probably would just want revenge.
It's sort of after the fact, and I'm sure she wanted her friends to survive. So doing that makes us, again, not every trick in the book, but all these stupid techniques like puppies, horses, children, taking care of her relationships, having a personal relationship, having flashbacks, having dreams. I mean, all she had to do was like pick flowers and heal the sick or something. And I'd be like, well, how much more are you going to do for this girl to make her look good? Make you care about her. So,
There is some catharsis in looking back and seeing what she had, and now that it's all gone, I will admit that.
but that's the opposite effect. That's like you want her to suffer.
Yeah, in a strange, sadistical kind of way, and I don't know if that's my fault for feeling that way, but I don't know. Because as far as I can tell, the narrative does not want us to hate Abby.
The narrative wants us to play as her and care about her.
If we explore what the story is, the story doesn't want us to hate Abby, but it's like, okay, so why do so many people?
Which makes strange sense, because everything on her side, especially the revenge, made people happy. A lot of her friends were like, good, Joel got what he deserved. And you're looking at Ellie's side, it's like, nope, you should stop doing this. This is bad. She even has a second chance to go back.
But here's the thing, whether or not, and I mean, if we were watching these characters from the very beginning, then yes, we would probably side with them, this horrible person who came in, killed off their entire camp and, their relatives and what have you. Yes, he would deserve to die by their perspective, but their perspective is in the game for all of an hour before the event happened.
Yes, the timing and when to do this and how to do it, these are all good arguments to be made of how to identify with the character.
It's not a bad idea, but you execute it too soon. You blew the shock load too early. It was the same like they wanted in the first game for Joel to lose his actual daughter within the first 30 minutes. They needed something climactic to be like, boom, this is the game. This is what you can expect. But they blew the shock value too soon. We barely know these people before they commit to this horrible action. So whether it's irrational or not, players that are accustomed to Joel and like Ellie and sympathize with Ellie's loss are going to shut themselves off to Abby and her crew immediately.
One thing I remember...
So by the time you roll round to Abby, you go, I don't want to play as this person. They've done horrible stuff. And then you find out why they've done what they've done. It's like, yeah, okay, but still fuck you at that point.
I love the idea of mirroring two characters, protagonist or anti-hero, antagonist, whatever you want to call Abby, as having the same plot of revenge. I like that idea. The difference is, of course, Abby's revenge is done. But they didn't mirror anything else much. So they have the same friends, they get killed off, etc. Fine. For example, Abby has a moment of weakness where she's scared. She's fear of heights. And that was a really good scene. You do this in stories. You have Chekhov's guns. You show their weaknesses, and then you give them the thing that makes them weak. Great, fantastic. There was a weakness with Ellie in the first game, that she couldn't swim. But every flashback we see of Ellie, not every flashback, one flashback where she's still a kid, she's swimming. And I was like, huh, okay. So that assumes that Joel taught her to swim and all this other stuff. So that could have been a great example of mirroring Ellie and Abby fantastically, with her being unable to swim or being scared, having panic attacks, learning how to swim from Joel, and she forgot. Now she has to overcome that fear to get through her plot. These are things they could have done. And they just didn't want to go that route with Ellie at all. Ellie had to go through pain, constant suffering. Never, always on a downward slope. Whereas Abby was the opposite.
And again, I understand how the ideas for this exist. The idea that you lose Joel and then you go through the pain and suffering with Ellie, remembering, recounting his your time with him and what the standout moments that we didn't see between Last of Us 1 and 2 in the same way that you go through the important moments in Abby's life that lead up to where she is now. I understand that element exists and why it is there, but it is detrimental to the narrative either way if we're trying to, pit Ellie against Abby, but have a hand in each corner as to why we sympathize with them.
Exactly, because when you have positive feelings or remembrances or flashbacks of Joel, that gives you more motivation to want to get after Abby. Imagine all of the experiences on Ellie's side were negative. The flashbacks, lying with Joel, experiences with Joel, that was all negative. And then you have this building up narrative of, hey, maybe Joel wasn't that great of a guy, which is one of the arguments I made originally, is that you have to demonize Joel. You have to constantly demonize Joel, and you have to constantly uplift Abby. You have to do these two things, or else you will never like Abby. You will never accept things. So if that was the case, and we get to the ending where Ellie decides, hey, maybe this isn't worth it. Maybe Joel wasn't that great a guy. Maybe I don't need him anymore. Maybe I should stop getting hung up over this whole revenge thing. And you scatter those breadcrumbs throughout the story, and she goes on this journey of revelation that, hey, yeah, I could, I love Joel, but, he wasn't worth destroying my life over. Then you can go, oh, I can see this coming. I can see Ellie going, I'm going to stop. This is not worth it. But we never get that connection. We never get those breadcrumbs. We never get that build-up.
And then you do the Ellie to Abby bit. I understand why you did what you did.
Yes.
But I still can never forgive you for that.
Because Abby is Ellie 5 years in ahead. She's so gung-ho about revenge, and she gets it. And then we see her being destroyed. Not destroyed. I think the last part of the game was kind of silly with she gets captured by some slavers and then just strung up for months.
That were never mentioned before, yeah.
It's such a random thing just to give a scenario for Ellie to go chase after her. It's so silly.
It's also like the idea that, see, Abby has now repented for what she's done, feels sorry for her.
She's on the literal cross, yes.
But we don't see any of the struggle she goes through. The last thing we see is her getting knocked out, and then we find her strung up on the beach by Ellie.
It's almost
an hour or so.
An 11th hour sort of, we got to do something to make her look depressed now because she's been having such a good time. It's like, oh, okay, let's tie her to a tree for a few months and make her all emaciated and make her give up. It's like, oh, would have been nice if we saw that. Like her suffering for like a second or two. It's like, oh, she's suffering. Okay, great, good. Losing all those gains within 2 months or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah, all the time she's been building that muscle, it's gone.
Yeah, she looks like a normal girl.
Every time they went on a raid, she called dibs on the protein and everything. I like how there's some guy on Twitter said, "Oh, you gamers you're just sexist because you're saying that that Abby doesn't look realistic." Well, here's a photo of the girl that they based her off of. Checkmate, gamers! Like, thank you for proving that. Yeah, Abby is unrealistic because she looks nothing like the person they based her off of.
She's this CrossFit ripped.
I'm assuming that's who goes to the gym like every day, has a lot of protein. They're a proper professional bodybuilder, and that's gonna be incredibly difficult to do in the motherfucking apocalypse.
Yeah, but that's not my problem. My problem is that the person that is mocapping the actress doesn't look anything like her. So the voice or whatever, it's not a representation of the character. And really, that's not my problem either. Like, these are all red herrings that people are throwing out there that are just little progressive ideological virtue signals. Like, oh, you look like this, you don't look normal, or oh, this character's a lesbian, or it's like none of that shit is story. That's all just your bullshit. So shut the fuck up and tell me more about the story, because all we have is a revenge story between somebody whose dad got killed because he was going to kill the fake daughter or the adopted daughter of Joel. So now I got to kill Joel, and then you got to go and learn that the cycle of it's Bioshock Infinite jumping the shark. It's the same thing where she goes, "There's always a lighthouse and a man," and it's like, no, it's not. That's just your formula. You're just giving away the fact that you can't think of anything else except for revenge stories, Neil. That's all you got. And then this character takes revenge against this character.
Then there's the whole...
And then all we got with Bioshock is a city, a lighthouse, and a man. Because that's your creativity, like, just ending. It's not the fucking audience's fault. It's not the format that we want more of. That's you.
Then there's the meandering of her entire storyline after, because after she kills Joel, it's just whatever the hell they want to do with the writing, because they don't care about Abby. They just give her good stuff to do. But she joined the Wolves for all these years. She's about to fight a war, and then she gets caught up with these 2 kids, and then she's like, hey, I'm going to go help these kids. Like, how about all your friends that died? How about this boss who told you to lead the charge of this war? Aren't you, like, on a certain side here? It's like she gives everything up to help some kids. And one of them even dies after they spent all this time to save her life, and she just gets killed. And it's just like, where is the plot going with Abby? And there's no actual purpose behind, we need to fill in some material so she's still alive, so we can get her to the end, so Ellie can go try and kill her. That's like, it's such a fill. Like all of Abby's story is filler to the point of being saccharine. So you can make her.
Well, it's emotional manipulation filler, which is what Neil loves. If we remember when we were watching that video of him, he's like, what he finds most important is the emotional situation, which is why, unlike Uncharted, which I was saying was a series of action set pieces, Last of Us has always been, I feel like, a series of emotional set pieces. Like, oh, you're going to get manipulated now. Here's how you're going to get manipulated now. Oh, this person's going to die, and it's the person that has the kid, or it's the pregnant lady's going to die, or it's the lesbian girl. Whatever it is, whatever you are is going to affect your emotions the most is the choice that's going to be made. And that just ends up being like just nonsensical, like decisions that make no... What is this story about again, besides revenge? Like, there's world building going on? No, not really. It's just the emotions of the characters dealing with each other and making stupid decisions. And that's supposed to be grown up. I don't understand that.
Yeah, you knew that something was wrong with the end when the whole story of Abby hinges on some CB radio thing she found in the hidden basement of some house to contact the rest of the Fireflies, and she's just randomly trying numbers, hoping someone will respond. You're like, really? This is the whole story of Abby? And then as soon as she does that, they do that stupid technique where as soon as you open a door, you get jumped. And they do that several times on almost every level. The jump scare, whatever you want to call it. And it happens with Abby, but it's because it's scripted. There's like 4 guys on her and she gets beaten up. And
Has Glib seen the moment where Lev gets pummeled by Fat Geralt?
Yeah, no. It's great. It's hilarious.
Gets her head knocked into the door, garage door.
He's like, sleep.
It's one of the, it's like, you can just slice parts of the game out, and I have problems with it. Like that dancing scene we were looking at earlier is full of stupid scripting. Like that's the biggest sandwich moment where the guy comes up and he gets upset about 2 women dancing with each other. Where has that ever happened in like modern history? What
a lot.
To say that the invention of the bigot sandwiches was awesome because they're delicious. Bigot sandwiches are delicious.
The best thing about Last of Us 2 was the memes. Joel in 1, Fat Girl, and bigot sandwiches. That's what we got out of it, I feel like. And we got to see a snuff film about Joel, and then we got to see Ellie get abused like she's some sort of... She's like in Neil's basement or something, getting tortured by clickers.
All right, let's go through some really funny super chats here, guys. How would you all feel about a Joker-esque Mr. Freeze Origins film that's stop motion or claymation directed by Tim Burton? Whoa.
As long as Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Mr. Freeze, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I don't care for like half of those things.
If it was a Christmas special, yes.
Yeah, I want a whole Christmas special film about Mr. Freeze.
A Christmas special would be good. Yeah, I agree with that. That'd be excellent.
A new Christmas film. It's like fucking Grinch, but it's Mr. Freeze. And he's like, well, Mr. Freeze's heart grew 5 times that day. And then he froze everyone.
Mr. Freeze's heart grew warm that day. Whatever.
The only reason is because I love the Claymation's Christmas when I thought of stop motion. So if you're going to go with Tim Burton, make him be about... Like, because, what is that Tim Burton film that was about the Halloween, but it ended up being a Christmas story?
Before Christmas.
Was that it? Yeah. See, that was great. Yeah. So if you can do something like that, Tim Burton knows what he's doing.
We need Danny Elfman. Then we need Danny Elfman.
If you want Christmas, then it has to be Tim Allen.
See, that could work great. So you guys have great ideas. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Good job, guys. Best chat.
Okay. John Lemley again. Hot take. Writing characters is a lot like copywriting for advertisements. You want to convince your audience to feel a certain way about them while making it seem like it's their own natural idea. Huh.
That seems to be like the Neil Druckmann way of doing it. I was liking what Smud was saying earlier, which was that you want to create a consistent world and narrative for the characters. You want the characters to act in an authentic way, and that way you can view it from different lenses and have quality come from it. I really like the idea of that, because from this you're supposed to have a depthful experience. You're supposed to empathize, I guess, with both sides. There was a way to do that, I felt like, but it was almost like the issue is that instead of giving a narrative that the audience is going to have like the same sensibilities as the creator and it's matching up with each other, this is not a show that has the same sensibilities as I do. So like me wanting to have Joel not die doesn't matter. Me wanting to take revenge in that case doesn't matter. Me wanting anything that isn't out of the auteur theory of Neil Druckmann is not gonna be involved, including fun. So I struggle with it, man. I don't know what to make of all this.
Well, in regards to writing characters, I always recommend the following of JMS's technique, which is write your best friend. So every character you write, think of them as your best friend, and you know if something were to happen to them, you know how they would react. So they walk across the room, they stub their toe, you know exactly how your best friend would react. And that's how, when we think of Joel at the end of Last of Us, we know exactly how he would react when someone was about to take Ellie and doing something against their will. So that's how it should react. That's how it should work. That's one way you never screw up writing, or you never get writer's block, because you just know, well, what would Joel do now in this case? Oh, exactly. And once you figure that out, you just write Joel. You're fine. Okay, Nathan Brake. This is the one I wanted to get to. Abbey looks like Greta Thunberg hit the gym to beat your head in with golf club of climate change activism. Oh, God.
Wow.
She does. Yeah. She does remind me a lot of Greta Thunberg. Actually.
Now that you've mentioned, I never thought of that. I was like, oh my God, you're right.
It's a little embarrassing.
Kind of like a fusion between Greta Thunberg and Senator Armstrong from Revengeance.
But just think about it. Like, Greta, all she does is go around and just stand around.
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?
Imagine she hit the gym with all that enthusiasm. Like, what would she look like?
Abby. It'd
She'd be Abby.
So it's like what was it? What's your opinion on this socioeconomical idea, Mrs. Thunberg? How dare you? Thank you for your genius input.
I'm gonna go do 200 reps, waiting for the CO2 levels to decrease, or generate my own CO2.
She's going on her own revenge story.
Check the chat.
I saw it.
Oh dear.
It's pretty accurate, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, Lenny the Shark. I love the way Manny gets put down like the NPC that he is, especially since he looks like Druckmann. Well, I think once it's revealed that Manny gets shot by what's his face, Tommy, and then you realize, oh, he's the sniper. It makes sense, which is great, because who else could be amazing as Tommy? Tommy's got some freaky plot armor in this story. It's just ridiculous.
I see a burp in the chat says, "Climate changes, son." Senator Armstrong's his nano machine, son. Yeah, it says climate changes.
Oh God! Someone making me. I really want to see a picture of Greta Thunberg on top of Abbey, and you wouldn't know that it's like, wait, is that Abbey? Wait, no. Oh. All right, John Lemley. Here we go. But the Neil Druckmann way assumes that audiences will connect just by default of playing them, exactly. Not by actually selling players on them well. Yeah, see, that's a strange design philosophy, that it's an argument to be made that because you're controlling Luigi or whomever, that you're going to like them more or like them at all because you're just controlling them. It's not really how storytelling with a narrative with talking heads and voice acting works. If it's a silent protagonist, maybe, because you have no other media that's coming at you, because it's just the visuals and you're controlling the visuals with your controller. That's about it. So you really have to know what you're doing once you give someone the controller and say, now you are the villain and you're going to kill the good guys. You're like, whoa.
There are no good guys anymore. It's all subjective.
In the world of gray areas like The Last of Us, there are a lot of gray characters, but to the audience, they know who the good guys are because we played with them for the first game. So
yes, but why did they make Dina's boobs smaller?
Why did they make Dina a flirty sort of? She's the talk of the town sort of girl. I didn't ever like. Is she really that special? Like, what's great about her? She's of certain age to have kids. Is that the thing? I don't know. Is it like that in small towns? That's what I wanted to know because there's probably some stories there.
I love how that's part of it, and then like the biggest sandwich thing is part of it. But Ellie's desire to be with a man is not. Really makes sense, especially the person that's immune. This is all very useful. This universe does not deserve to live, is what.
You would think that maybe. And she says that she can't give you the virus or give you the immunity of the virus to Dina when she was talking to her, but she never considers, hey, what if my offspring have immunity?
How are you immune to fungus? What does that mean? Like, I'm sorry that everybody's so like high and mighty about the storytelling. I'm missing key details of this stuff from the beginning, but it's like, come on, bro.
Yeah, the blood-brain barrier is very complex, but I think the lore is that it actually penetrates that and gets infected in your brain chemistry. So it's in your brain, and for whatever reason, it's not proliferating and replicating. So there's got to be something special about. And that's all you got to do. If that's the case, get some spinal fluid, test that. But because the narrative in The Last of Us 2 says, no, you have to cut the brain. And like, why?
But in Last of Us 1, it says that. And like the whole conditions of the world building are set up so that you can't find the right surgeon. There's only one surgeon. It's like,
really?
Yeah, okay. Contrivance, convenience. Got it.
There's only one neurosurgeon on the planet. Like, really? Okay.
Yeah, and it's got to be the brain. You can't, because it's like, it's not about T cells and adaptive immunity, even though that would be like the right way to do the mycology or whatever. I don't know. What do I know? I'm trying to have fun.
All right, guys, it's 9:00. Do you want to keep going? I don't want to put you guys to sleep too much.
I'm fine to keep going.
Are you okay, Shiny?
Yeah, I just said I'm fine to keep going.
Okay, how about you, Voice? Do you want to get going? I know you have a very busy day ahead of you tomorrow, so.
I may. My computer's demanding that I shut it down so it can do an update anyway. So.
Okay. Well, you know what? We can go for part 2 tomorrow or on Saturday, whenever you guys are ready.
Don't stop on my account. If you guys want to keep going, go for it.
Well, I really like the conversations we're having. I'm glad we have you because I really wanted Southpaw, but he works till 9:30, and hopefully I can get him on the weekend. And I know this is a lot of Last of Us 2 content. And you guys might be bored of that. I'm kind of bored of it too. I'm going to keep covering it just because it's popular in the news, and that's what keeps popping on my feed. And I want to make my video eventually. So, but I want to have you all guys with us. So,
well, I will leave you guys to it to make the decision whether you continue or not and how you do. But I'm going to give this computer a break and probably get some beauty sleep.
Okay, thanks a lot, Voice.
And I'm probably going to go head off also.
I'll chat to you all later.
All right. Thank you, LiteratureDevil, as well. You guys have a great night.
Hey, you too.
Okay, so we're going to do another half hour. How's that, guys?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Lenny the Shark. Vaccines cure viral infections, not fungi. Fungi is a very unique organism. It's not quite living. It's not quite a virus. It's a combination of the two. It's hard to classify. I actually went out with a geneticist, and they refused to have mushrooms on their pizza because they thought it was icky. So.
I like the mycelium thing, and
it's cool.
It was really cool, but I understand that the entire the scheme of this is that they wanted zombies, but they needed to make it interesting, so they pointed to the cordyceps fungi that with the ants, and they're like, "What if it was humans?"
Cool.
And then they
Very
just
cool.
ran with it. I get it. Really cool.
Here's Joe Crazy. The cure is that you need to be a homosexual. All the weird sexuality issues with the story, I think they were done fine because it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter that Ellie and Dina were homosexual. It mattered that they were smoking weed and then getting it on, and then they get caught. It's like this is childish. This is stupid. This is a show. This is a game for. I'm not even sure if this is a game for. If they're going to be adolescent about this kind of crap, and then have lots of visceral gore, is it a slasher flick? Like, what is this?
I kind of wonder what a fungicide would do to these zombies. Like, if you just kind of covered the whole area with fungicide, would that kill the zombies?
Well, it makes me wonder what.
Could that cure you? Just cover yourself in fungicide. It's like, oh well, it might be poisonous, but hey, I've got no infection.
The idea of having a fungus that grows out of your skull is insane. But we're talking about zombies, so all the rules are out the door when you're talking about homeostasis and respiration. It doesn't make any more sense, and they never really deal with that in most zombie stories anyway. So I'm not too concerned. But anytime the brain is concerned, I'm like, oh, here we go. It's a fungus. Oh, okay, right. Comes out of the skull. Ooh.
If these zombies were also like they actually required like the bodily functions to work because that's how it got energy and such. Like it wasn't a big part just to kill the brain.
Sure,
like,
but
the body had to get energy to move. It had to, it makes more sense that way. And they tried to put more detail into fleshing out how it works.
Yeah, because usually, as far as I remember, funguses are parasites, so they feed off the thing that's alive. So as soon as something's dead, what's it feeding off? The air? Like, what's the sunlight? How does that work?
Not only that, how is the body
decomposer.
moving? The problem is with a lot of zombie media is that even though the muscles are completely gone and there's no way this zombie could possibly be making energy, it's still moving about. It's in some cases they're also running. And I can't, like, since they are already going for the whole idea of a different kind of infection, they could have also addressed that actually it does need a working body. It does need to feed. If it, feeding and eating humans is what keeps this going.
Right.
And the brain doesn't matter because it's not working off a brain, it's working off the body.
And they're always blind. They always are very sensitive to sound, never light. Why is that? I don't know. There's lots of lore and tropes in the zombie genre, so I always want more. Why give me a different spin. Why are your zombie horror different? But I don't need it. I just want to give me more. Use your imagination, and I think the cordyceps is a great idea. Just go for it. Keep going. Anyway,
there's no studies on the Ophiocordyceps unilateralis and the azoles that we use for antifungals. I've never seen that. I would love to see what the effect on a host would be, but I don't think that there's any studies that I've seen for that.
Yeah.
It's like, what happens to the ant if you put some fungicide on it?
That's right, exactly. I have no idea. But the azoles, the fluconazole or whatever, the analogs, the triazoles or whatever, that are known as antifungals, they're toxic to the humans as well. So it's interesting. But I don't know. I never thought. I always found the Last of Us, the fungal zombie idea to be like, oh, it's really cool to think of. But then when you actually try to work on it, as like, oh, and then you get bitten or whatever, you'd think that everybody would succumb.
I think
to
they
it.
could have.
Why would anybody have immunity?
Idea of being bitten because the idea is already that it spreads through spores. Like you could have further removed it from sort of like the stereotypical zombies, and you could have also because that was the idea, like you had the mask instead, and that the biting was just to just because it needs a feed. It wasn't for like actually spreading the virus.
Interestingly enough, even with what stage of man? I can't remember what prehistoric stage, but most mammals would eat not the muscles of other organisms; they'd eat the organs because there's a lot more density to nutrients in those organs as opposed to muscle mass. So muscles are kind of like a big sponge, whereas tissues are very specific to their function, so you get stronger, denser material. So it would make sense that if you need energy, you would go after the organs of an organism, not necessarily the blood and the muscles. So
The fungal thing is on like a microbiological level. It has to do with neutrophils, and it has to do with cytokines and stuff.
Really?
So it's really interesting, like what the fungal relationship with humans. There's like 300 different varieties of it or whatever, and most people have an immune response to it. So the idea of a zombie outbreak would have to be very specific, and that to me was a convenience in the first place. But I don't know. We can probably move on with this video if you want.
Well, we're not even 4 minutes in.
yeah, no. It's like talking about this kind of stuff. I kind of like.
Cool.
Well, we can do part 2. I don't know if you guys want to keep going. It's up to you, but
I think we should at least get halfway.
And we can always just do a part 2 with everyone else, because there's no way we're going to get through. It's taken how long for us to get through? What, like, 4 minutes? I think
we should get to 7 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. So, did we talk about James Moore's super chat? I can't recall. I think we did.
Well, right before he posted it, he's saying the real life fungi that the game takes inspiration from. It's the cordyceps, that one that I mentioned, from specifically targets the nerve system of ants to take them over against their will and make them spread the fungi even more. Yeah, that's what freaked people out when they read it. That it affects the mind of the ant, and that the colonies will actually push those ants out. It's horrifying. It's a good idea, scares the shit out of me.
Okay, here's Joe Crazy. If I wanted melodrama, I'd watch anime. Well, watch a lot more with anime than just melodrama. So, yeah.
Look, I mean, some people like this stuff, but to me, it's like teen fiction or like romance fiction. It's like just bait.
It's
like, don't you feel bad? No, I don't.
The problem with the relationship with Dina and Abby is you don't. I didn't really get it. Like, yeah, she's flirty. She thinks she's hot stuff, but I'm like, okay, I guess she's attractive. That's fine. But the actual interest by Abby's side is like, oh, she's a girl. I like her. That's it. There's no like reason why. There's no. It's kind of like a first kiss thing. It's like, oh, this is my first girlfriend, and then you're like living with her, and now you're raising a kid together, and you're kissing her on her shoulder where she's clothed. I'm like, is this normal? Like, I don't think so. I think Ellie is out of her element. She doesn't know what she's doing. So, all right, let's keep going.
Mostly it does this by putting the player at odds with the character. The last game did this too, but only at the end. In this game, we're constantly re-examining how we feel about Ellie. We like her from the previous game, but now she's on a quest for revenge that is way over the top. We understand her anger, but she's avenging someone who single-handedly did more damage to this world than anyone possibly could.
Okay, that is a very hot take on The Last of Us 1.
All he really did was, stop a virus from being resist some kind of resistance to it. That's all he stopped. The vaccine,
a potential vaccine.
Yeah. Well, we didn't even know if it was actually going to work or not. He single-handedly doomed the world. The world was already pretty fucked. And even if the vaccine worked, there's still the problem that the world is now divided into factions. If they're not going to focus on fighting the zombies, they're going to fight on each other a little bit more than they already are doing, and they're already fighting each other more. You have groups like the Fireflies, you have groups like Raiders, and all these other things that are trying to fight each other for dominance. They're going to stop focusing on survival and focusing on, I want to control these people. I want this space these resources that you have.
Yeah, you're still in a barbaristic society throughout the entire continent. So, I mean,
hey, you've gone from Walking Dead to Mad Max. You're now fighting for resources instead of working for survival.
It's like now you have a cure for cancer. It's like, great, I can barely eat. Like, how does that help me? Like, it's so yeah, that might have been good if it was possible, but doesn't mean it's going to guarantee.
When the coronavirus is over, well, the virus is going to have gone away, but the economic problems, they're still going to be there.
Well, so whatever. But 28 days later, now that had like subsequent results 28 weeks later. I always thought it would be interesting to show a zombie movie after the zombies were no longer relevant. Like, in my world, you have a zombie movie, The zombies are realistic in that when they run out of food, they don't eat each other. They basically die off because they're just stupid humans or whatever that have just died, lost their brain power, whatever.
Like
So
after,
then
something
after that,
after
if you-
Shaun of the Dead, for example, like Shaun of the
Yeah.
Dead's happened. It's like, oh well, what happens now?
Yeah, what happens now? Because then it is like more like The Last of Us, where it's factionated. But then it becomes really important about who comes out of the apocalypse, who has survived, to have ideas about rebuilding society, and then those people will have incredible visions. And that's why I felt so hollow when, even in the first one, playing The Last of Us 1 and 2, it's like, you know that there's like a librarian out there who survived the apocalypse, and now he wants to educate people, and then there needs to be a school teacher for the kids that are growing up, and then they have a story, and then you have the guy that knows how to raise cattle again, and he feels like a cowboy for the first time in a long time. It's like there's so many opportunities for stories. There's so much opportunity for melodrama and all these things if you aren't hyper focused on a revenge plot. If you're actually thinking about the world, because let's be honest, like, this is all taking place in one small area. What about the rest of the world? What's going on around there? How is that affecting this area? Like, at least in the Fallout world, we know that each time that they travel to a different area in a different time period, there's large arcs. There's like so much stuff going on, and the world changes between Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 substantially. New Vegas is a totally different planet. It's like there is a whole rich environment, and I felt like that was missing from all of this, because I was thinking about it when I was playing The Last of Us 1. I was like, why aren't we doing so many things? Where is everybody? Are they all dead, or what's going on here? And I felt like I was hyper focused on emotions instead of motivations.
Here's a super chat from John Lemley. Thank you again, sir. Preventing an unlikely vaccine that hadn't been successful in a process that already failed multiple tests that would be given to a self-righteous utilitarian group is definitely the demise of mankind. There's all sorts of arguments to be had. And
Sure.
The story of The Last of Us is not about the vaccine. It's about Joel as a character and his loss of his daughter and what he would have done differently at the ending. And obviously, we think he would have chosen to save Ellie. And that's a perfectly good setup for the next story, if you want to tell that story.
You could have easily told a new story about other people trying to get the vaccine, and then it becomes a story of instead of getting Ellie to these people, he needs to get her away from these people.
One of the
But
arguments...
they kind of did cut that off already with the ending of the first story, where it says, "Oh well, if I let you live, you're just going to come after her."
Yes.
But I think you could still probably have room to tell that story of them running away.
I've heard some people talk about how this game should have been The Last of Us 3, and the second game should have been Abby's story, and it's just Abby, and she does her stuff.
Sure. But you know why they couldn't do that was because then they couldn't sell the game.
Yes, exactly. Where would you put Ellie and Joel in there?
Yeah. Anyway, let's try and get there.
Think about what he did. How many people are dead because of him?
Literally every death that happens after the first game is Joel's fault.
See, in that scene where she clubs that girl is going to die regardless. She could have left her there to suffer because she was infected with the spores at that point. So Abby's like, no, I'm going to purposely beat you to death. So it's like, okay, she is gung-ho. She is committed to this quest. She's going to kill every lackey, every friend, everyone in her way. And she even says that with the first person she tries to kill, who's already dead. She got shot by arrows or something on the top of a building. And Dina asks her that, I don't care. If they're any way related to Joel's death, they're going to die. Now, that opinion never changes until Abby stops her and she's like, oh, I guess I can't kill Abby anymore. She's stronger than me or whatever. And then she can't sleep and can't eat. And she decides to try it again. It's just a very strange character with Abby who just gives up because Abby's strong, I guess. I don't know.
Strong. You know, have you ever seen South Park where they take the piss with the strong woman competition? There's literally a woman called Strong Woman. It's like, I'm pretty sure, like, if you gave her steroids, that's pretty much Abby. She's a strong woman.
Okay, here's Edax. Thank you, sir. Literally every death that happens after the first game is Joel's fault. Just no, a cure would not solve the world's problems for years. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Even if there was a cure, that does not change the state of the world. it can slowly start
Yeah.
healing it.
The virus caused this, and just the virus going away doesn't solve it.
Maybe in relation to the plot,
virus?
you could argue that, because as a result,
What virus?
then Abbey becomes a revenge-seeking person, so then all the deaths that she causes, sure, and that which causes Ellie to seek revenge on that, sure, then you could argue that, but not in the grand scheme of things, no.
And every single person in the world has cause to see him punished. Abbey just has extra personal reasons to hate him. But on some level, we want to see Joel avenged, because the first game made us feel attached to him too. And I mean, Ellie doesn't know about all the bad stuff that he did, so we understand.
See, he always underlines it with feeling. Makes us feel attached. No, you are attached. It's not just an emotional reaction. It's a mental association between object and your brain. You're going, hey, this thing I was controlling last game, I care about it. It's a thing. It's a guy. I have this idea of Joel in my head. It's not a person. It's a distance from the stage there, sir. You're not on the stage. You might think you are, but you're not. Here's John Lim. I think he's making a joke at Glib. Zombies in a Last of Us game? What's that virus thing? Something to do with zombies? I don't know.
Understand where she... Oh, wait. She knows? She knew the whole time? This is what I mean when I say that Naughty Dog wants to f*** with you.
Well, no, see, that's a stupid element, because it shows us that Ellie learns, and she actually hears Abby's voice. And this is Abbey on the recorder saying, my dad got killed or whatever. They're going to find a cure and this and that. So we try to have connections between antagonist and protagonist throughout a story, a quest story, because it's so hard to do. Because the antagonist is always up in the clouds, and the protagonist is down in the dirt. And you have to give a good reason to connect them, and that's why we look at like The Last Jedi and this contrived communication that happens just instantly, because we have to have conflict between antagonist and protagonist. And in this case, we see the journal, or hear the journal of Abbey. It's like, oh, really? Okay. She just happened to find that.
That makes it okay then.
They have conflict now. Abbey or Ellie knows what she's looking for. It's like, what? No, this is before this. This is a flashback. She's trying to figure out what happened to her at the end of the story in the first game. So I don't even know if she puts two and two together. So it's kind of trying to explain Abby's or Ellie's anger at Joel through what's that typical technique in Bioshock, through the voice recordings, or what are those dictaphone things? Show don't tell. Well, speak don't tell. It's the same thing. You're still telling. It's a recording. One of those. I think Yahtzee was angry about how that was a common technique in the Bioshock games. It's always another voice recording. There's all these journals thrown around Rapture. Like everyone's making their own journal on a tape.
Easiest way to dump your extra exposition, just make tapes.
Tape!
First Last of Us game had a much easier task. All that game had to do was get you invested in Joel and Ellie's relationship to work. The Last of Us II doesn't just want you to be invested, but conflicted about your investment.
Right. This is the problem. There's no setup for that. They had to retcon the setup, and they had to make it about Abbey, which is part 3. Let's go
Part 3, cultivating empathy.
By using
so
flashbacks.
That brings us to Abbey, a character whose story feels like it was constructed on a bet. Like, hey,
what? Really, really, really critical from what's his name? Just Right.
Yeah.
That's like a low blow, actually. He's like, I can't. He's like, this must have been created on a bet. Like, come on, who would do this? Even he gets it. Anyway,
we're Naughty Dog. We're one of the most successful game studios in the world. Everyone seems to like our story, so let's challenge ourselves and do the most difficult thing possible. Let's get the players to loathe the character, just absolutely despise.
How do you like that he's playing Uncharted music while Joel's getting beaten? It's great. Perfect.
Them. And then let's feed that rage for 10 hours of gameplay, but turn it all on its head. Force the players to actually play as that character and use every trick in the book.
That just means that
use every trick in the book.
That just means that, it's like, oh, well, we're gonna do this really terrible idea. Like, they're either really like egotistical, it's like, oh, we're really good, we can do this. It's like, and I don't for one second believe that was their intention. It's like, oh, we've done so many things, let's try something even harder. Especially since like so many people have already made the argument of like, oh, all these great games they've done, they've then set the bar for themselves and they just can't reach that bar again. It's like, okay, then if they were doing that, why would they choose something so difficult? And it's like, no, they thought they were telling a good story, they thought they were doing this, they thought what they were doing was so intelligent, but it wasn't, because it was so poorly executed.
I really don't like the argument that they're pushing the medium forward, they're raising the bar, they're doing something innovative. It's like, no, they're digging their own hole. They're shooting themselves in the foot and saying, I think I'm so smart, I can do something really complex. All on the one technique. This is kind of like the subversion technique from Johnson. This technique is, if you control it, you care about it. If it's a player character, you're going to associate with that thing, and it's like, we're going to associate our control scheme and our direction of navigating, sure, but we're not going to start caring about the character just because we're controlling them, which is, I'm not sure where that came about. Oh, we got a super chat. Sorry. John Lemley, this must have been created on a bet. Really glowing endorsement right there. I know this is funny because Just Right's like, yeah, this is ridiculous. Why would they do this? Why would they try this ridiculous attempt at storytelling and piss people off like they're some sort of George R. R. Martin understudy trying to do what he does, just in a smaller scale without understanding the technique?
Without utilizing the ensemble to give people enough breadth, so that if you kill off a couple characters, it's not killing off the only characters we care about.
Make them come to empathize with them. And not only that, but we'll write it in a way that if they don't empathize with her at least a little bit, then they're the ones being hypocrites, because she'll have become more morally...
Wait. How is the audience a hypocrite? That doesn't make any sense.
You're a hypocrite for not liking Abbey?
Well, not empathizing. It's a very specific kind of emotion. So it's like,
because that now Ellie's now a murderer. That's something you did superficially.
yeah, it's like saying because you didn't fall for my trick in my story, therefore you're a hypocrite. It's like, no, Just Right. That's like me reading all the Agatha Christie novels and going, oh, I know what's going to happen because I've seen it before, and saying, well, you're just a hypocrite because you're not thinking the way that she wants you to think. It's like, what are you talking about? I know exactly what she's talking about.
No. I think what he's going for is saying that, oh, the reason we don't like Abbey is because she's a murderer. And it's like, well, Ellie's now a murderer. It's like, no, that's something they did in this game. So that's not something established from before. We didn't like Ellie before, even, but she wasn't a murderer then.
But everything that Abby's showing us is murder is good. It's good to get revenge. And that's exactly what Ellie wants. So it's like we're rooting for Ellie.
Defensible than any of the characters the audience likes. Okay, what do I mean by every trick in the book?
Yeah, he's saying that morally
is itself the name of a book.
This scene is so stupid. It does almost nothing for backstory. Who cares?
I know what it's there for, though.
Who cares if they save a zebra?
You know
there's the zebra and the baby zebra. Oh, it's a mother and a daughter. What?
No, it's to tie into the giraffe from the first one.
Really?
So that it's like there's an analog between them two. It's like, oh, they found the zebra, and then it was Joel, and see how they're both father and daughter. It's like, fuck you. Like, I don't care if it's poetry, it rhymes. That's prequels logic.
There's so much backstory. There's so much jumping around that could have been cut from the story. You could have actually cut most of Abby's, if not all of Abby's story. And what would you have lost? The background for Abbey? The background for her characters?
So just to expand on what Glib was saying, where the idea of the rhyming idea isn't necessarily bad. I think it can improve something where it's like, oh, I can see the connection here. Mm-hmm. But the problem is you need something good to connect. This is not good. Yeah. You're trying to connect this thing to this thing, and you're doing it very horribly. So like I think the prequels also didn't do it very well, but the inherent idea itself is not something that's a terrible idea. You can't say it's good. You can't say it's good because it rhymes. It's something which adds to it. It's the icing on the cake.
I would have wanted to have played as Jerry Anderson in this instead of Abbey. Then maybe you could actually, have a Joel analog or something like that. You could that you could relive the moment where you shot the doctor as Joel, but from the other point of view, and then you could, do. It's like it's so obvious, but they're trying to do something that's subversive. They're trying to be different. They're trying to be unique. And they're not realizing that that's like playing the wrong note in the middle of a song just so that you can be like, oh,
Hi, you didn't expect that.
Yeah, you didn't expect that it would go. You didn't expect that.
It's like taking the NPC of that guy who just happened to be in the room at the time. Let's flesh out his story. It's like, why? It could have been anyone else in the building. It could have been anyone else in the world. Why this guy? Oh, he's a neurosurgeon. Oh, he likes animals. Oh, he likes birds or whatever he's doing in the scene. Why? How much did we have to know he has like 10 children or a loving wife? Like, how much more do we want to saccharine up this up? Like, how much sugar do you want to coat this guy with to make you care about him? And Abby's backstory.
Why did we do this?
Like, let's just keep like, oh, he saved millions. He's amazing. He's a neurosurgeon. He's like all. It's like, oh yeah, we get it. He was still gonna kill Ellie. Doesn't matter.
Save the Cat, which is a book I have a lot of reservations about because it advocates for writing formulas, but is also famous for the Save the Cat idea, which is an early scene in a movie where the main character does something unambiguously good, or at least impressive, to get the audience on their side.
Like
so in Abby's
Joel.
first flashback, she saves a zebra.
Like Joel.
See, she's not so bad. The Save the Cat type of scene can sometimes be a little cheap, but it is effective. The designers also give her a relatable.
Should have killed that zebra and
You
eaten
need
it.
something good. Like, okay, so
but the idea
in
of
order
the
to
world, all the
do something like that, you already need to have a character which you care about. You can't just say, oh, here's this character you don't care about doing this a nice thing. It's like, no, okay, you have someone who you've already established as a character. It's not like a band-aid you can just plaster over. It's like, hey, here's a character you don't care about or like. Here's a cute animal they save. It's like, no, you can't use it as a plaster. You can't just slap it on there and it makes it better. It's not how it works.
Okay, here's a super chat from John Lemley. I was a bit confused until he just did another one. I'd rather play as Bob than as Abby. I was like, Bob? Who the hell is Bob? Is it like movie Bob? Like, no, it's please no. Bob
I'd rather
actually
play as the zebra.
No, not Bob.
Please.
Bob, would you really want to play as movie Bob?
I want to play
Yes,
as the
I do.
giraffe, guys. Come on, let me play the giraffe. Bob actually had interesting character traits and flaws. It would also have ticked off a diversity point. Bill, what diversity point is Bill? Who's Bill? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, Valentin Ward. Just because I saw Clint Eastwood, obviously I had to respond to it. When Clint pets a cat in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, for a second, it's subtle. The Last of Us 2 isn't subtle. Yeah, that's a good point.
It's something which adds. You don't use it. You don't use it to that. You don't use that as your whole character. You know, the whole the reason you identify with them. That's something you add a little extra.
Well, the thing that the version that I like. I don't remember exactly what the noir is, but there's a noir that has Alan Ladd Sr. in it and Veronica Lake, and the main character is a hitman. He's a killer. He's a bad guy, but he treats cats really well because he identifies as the cats, and he explains that that old thing where it's like they go where they want to. They're independent. They don't need people, and then Veronica Lake uses that as a way to try and soften him up, which she mentions where she's like, he needs love or whatever as much as you do, and it's because he's got the cat in his arms. That's the whole point. So, Just Right is the thing, as usual, that bothers me about Just Right is that he'll make like a basic academic statement that would help somebody who doesn't know very much about writing. Like, yeah, you can use this trope, but then he's implying that it's working for this story. And it's only going to work for people that have are just easily led down that path. Like, oh, petting a cat makes me like this person more. That doesn't make me like that person more. That just gives me a note about who they are a little bit. If someone kicks the cat, I immediately know that they're a piece of shit. If they pet a cat, I just know that they like cats.
It's characterization.
Yeah, it's characterization. It's not necessarily a moral quantity. That's the problem. But it can be. It all depends on context, and then it all depends on what you're weighing. And the issue is that the thing that I feel pisses people off about The Last of Us 2 so much is that it's exploiting your moral compass while having none in and of itself, and no interest in telling you a story that's going to satisfy you. It's to me malicious, and I think that Neil has that thing that Rian Johnson has, where he gets a kick out of the audience being upset, and I think that has to do with self-sabotage. I think that that's a thing where it's like, well, you know, if I can't be the greatest, then I'll be the most divisive. That's like not impressive.
There's a really good scene in the review from Angry Joe where Druckmann is at the computer and he's looking back behind him on his wall. And
yes.
3 paintings or 3 photos of was it Rian Johnson,
D&D, yeah, and the Alex Kurtzman.
Right. I was like, what should I do? Technique. Oh, subversion. Oh yes, subversion.
Plot armor. The first one's plot armor. And something that's like kind of undermining something. Next one is no, I can't remember it now. But Alex, fuck it. Angry Joe's video is really good.
Yes, no, it's fantastic. Anyway,
his best, I think.
It was so Angry Joe is so honest. He doesn't like think about exactly the information in a complicated way. He's like, this is what I saw, this is what I think, this is what I feel, and he just goes with it. And I really like that.
Well, when it comes to his game review, I've said this many times before, but when it comes to his game reviews, he actually thinks and articulates. You know, he writes a script and he analyzes the game. He spends a lot of time picking it apart, looking at all these elements. But when it comes to his movie reviews, he's kind of just going off his initial reaction. And that's kind of the problem with it was kind of giving him a bad name, where he's like, he watches a film and then he just without thinking about it. You know, this review is his thoughts. He starts to unwind it. So first he'll at the start of the review he'll say, "Oh yeah, we just watched it," and then towards the end it'll start to unravel, and he's not quite fully fleshed out his thoughts, which is why he has so many videos on the Last Jedi, because when he made his first review, he did not think about it. He just said what he thought then and there, and then later down the line he thought, actually no, I have a lot more to say about this thing, and then he made several more videos. Each time he could have only just made one. There was only necessary to make one, but the problem is the way he does it, he doesn't properly think about it in his first video.
Right. All right, here's John Lemley. Bill is the paranoid gay guy who they get the car from. I had no idea he was gay.
No, you didn't know who's gay?
I had no idea.
He was. I knew he was gay. I can't remember what it was exactly. The guy who he was supposed to look for, I believe. Yeah, that was his husband or something, or at least his boyfriend.
Right. Okay. Beats me. All right, cool. Lenny the Shark, Movie Bob consumes. Movie Bob only consumes. Well, he does make videos, so he has to do something with all that consumption of media. And John again.
You know, he generally consumes media. He just eats the disc.
Oh yeah, I saw that wonderful. I can't remember what gamer it was, but it was an Asian gamer or a Korean gamer, and he popped the disc out and just cut it in half. The Last of Us 2, just like no facial expression, just gone. That's pretty tragic as far as games go. To actually get someone to pull it out of the box and after playing it, just slice it up. John Lemley again. Derek Savage of Cool Cat fame, okay, is the engaging and innovative visionary auteur that Neil Druckmann thinks he is. I'd have to play that, whatever Derek Savage is known for, and get back to you on that. Let's keep going, guys.
Yeah, get there.
The
Cool, we're nearly at 7
a
minutes.
relatable and empathetic motivation. She loses everything because of Joel. Not just her father, but the idea of a better world, all the idealism of the Fireflies as an organization, and is forced to find safety elsewhere, leading her to become a ruthless soldier in a pointless guerrilla war. We get to see what her coping mechanisms are. To deal with her trauma, she has physically transformed herself, becoming as strong as possible.
You're projecting.
Coping
mechanisms?
It's fine if I'm that strong, because even people in that world who constantly work out, I can't get that strong.
I understand. Somebody could actually do that. That could be the coping mechanism. But just the idea that she just gives up. It's like, for some reason, these shows like Last Jedi, Last of Us, people just give up. And I'm wondering what it is that makes them just give up. Like, what is it about hopelessness as the main thing of the characters in these stories? Like, oh, Abby's like, oh, because my father doesn't exist anymore, there are no more people that could follow up on the Fireflies. So I'm just going to not do that anymore, and I'm going to go around shooting people or something. Like, I'm going to go and try and take over this area, and maybe I'll do that. Like, is that interesting? What, I don't understand. And then Ellie with the immunity and not doing anything with it. It's like, who cares about saving humanity anymore? Let's just wallow in our sadness. I feel like I'm in an AA meeting.
Oh, boy. Oh, another super chat. Thank you, John. Cool Cat Saves the Day is a legendary bad and corny film that does a horrible job of talking about why bullying is bad. Okay. Derek Savage doesn't understand fair use law and attacks criticism of his film. Oh, one of those guys.
True.
Okay.
That's very true. All of that is facts.
I guess I'll watch it some other way then.
Yeah, watch the YMS review of the movie. It's pretty funny.
Oh, really?
One of his
Wolf
high
did a
points.
review of it, but that's probably gone down the rest of his channel.
Oh, is it gone?
What, Wolf?
No, YMS.
Oh.
Oh.
No, YMS has it. Dishonored Wolf got rid of his.
I see.
I'm saying, I said Wolf did a video of it, and that's how I knew about it. But yeah, he removed it with the rest of his channel. You can probably find it somewhere. I know people have re-uploaded his videos.
Okay, that makes more sense.
That she can avenge her. A great parallel to Ellie, whose body withers as her quest takes its toll on her. Abby also has a relatable fear. She's afraid of heights, and at a critical moment in the story, she has to face that fear and overcome it. Again,
see, this is a good thing. This is like textbook stuff you should be doing anyway in any story. It's called.
It's like you did the job that you were supposed to do. It's like, well done.
You have a
you did
flaw.
what you were supposed to do. You don't deserve a back for that.
Why didn't we cut right before the scene, like the moment when Joel was going to get killed by Abby, and then just do all this stuff? Wouldn't that be a lot more? That would give people a lot more background. Like, you I don't understand the point of the delivery of the chronology of this. Like, you get all this backstory for Abby after you've already pissed off the audience, so that you can try and see if you can figure out a way to convince them that she's not that bad, that their connection wasn't that deep to Joel, that we're no longer attached to Ellie, because it seems like a social experiment almost. Like, can Neil get you to side with Abby over Ellie?
Yeah, it's a strange thing to do, and you don't have media for this purpose. Like, when you do interesting things like jumping around chapters, like I've written stories. I think my third story I ever wrote for my creative writing teacher class back in college was I had chapter 8 first, then I had chapter 2, then I had chapter 5, and I kept jumping and jumping. But that's because I was telling a story about going between dimensions. So why you have a bunch of cuts that jump forward and backward in time in different perspectives, just to showcase, I don't know, this person's backstory, which could have been resolved in two scenarios, current time and past time. I don't know why I did it that way. And then we have to use this technique to care about these characters? It's a mess. It's not clear. It's not understood that this is the way things happen. You're always like, Seattle day 3, Seattle day 1, and then like 2 years ago, 4 years ago. Why are you doing this? Tell a single story.
It's like you're living through her memories. It's messing with the audience's sense of identity with the characters, and I just find that amazing, because if you are associated with the character that you're playing as, of course, if you kill that character, you're going to kind of kill a level of interest for the player. Why do you want to do that? I don't get it.
All right, there's a bunch of super chats just popped up. All right, John Lindley, Diesel Patches also has a pretty good review of it. All right, thanks. I'll be happy to check out this wonderful analysis that people seem to like. Lenny the Shark, that Korean streamer lost his father recently. Wow. Okay, so seeing Joel get murdered hit him harder than it should have, and he actually sat through that game. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course he'd be pissed off at the end. I could see that. Oh, what was that? Someone asked me to watch, was it yesterday or the day before? Girl Games or whatever it's called, and she did
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend
something.
Games, and Neil Druckmann actually linked to her video. And in that video, I watched it. The last part says, "Well, my dad died recently, or died previously." To play up the fact that she knows what she's talking about, she knows what she's going through, or what have you. It's like, okay, great, yeah, you're gonna throw in this pathos at me that you're having this argument from authority, that you know what it's like. It's like, really, you know what it's like to lose a dad in a post-apocalyptic world, and try to tell me that you identify with Abbey. It's backwards. That's the opposite argument. You should be identifying with Ellie. Someone took that away from you violently when you identified with a character who is your dad, not some stranger who killed your father.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I didn't know that about that Korean streamer. That's pretty sad.
It's just tone deaf.
Yes, it is very tone deaf, especially the farm scene. It just drives me nuts. John Lindley, but it doesn't matter that the backstory was way late. Joel should have already known about her just by hearing her say guess. There's many reasons why it doesn't work with Abbey. The disconnected narrative is a big problem for me, because when you're watching, you're like, oh, now you're seeing this, and then now you're seeing that, and it just keeps going. And it's like this, you're doing it backwards. Make me care first. Get me invested first. Don't throw me in the opposite direction and then try to make me climb out of a hole. It doesn't work that way. I'm not here to do the job. You are the one to do the job for me. I want to see a movie. I don't want to have to draw charts and graphs and figure out who the murderer is because you made the most intricate, ridiculously complicated murder mystery. No one's going to do that. Agatha Christie makes it complicated enough, and you don't need to know who was where, when, and why. All you need to know is motive and psychology, and you can figure the whole stories out. Anyway, we're almost at our 7-minute mark. We're going to keep going until we do.
Getting the audience on her side. I call these things tricks, but really they're just solid techniques that cultivate empathy for a character. If you have a character who does good deeds sometimes, has clear fears, weaknesses, and traumas, chances are the audience is going to connect with them. But most importantly, though, is that the game designers give Abbey a completely impossible desire. She has all of these conflicting emotions for Owen, who she's definitely in love with, but who she rejected because she's still not over her father's death, which...
No. She has no conflicting emotions. She likes Owen. Her dad is dead. That story's done. Now it's about her and her random journey in the WLF. That's it. We know she loves Owen. We know Owen loves her, but Owen's with another girl. Oh, it's a love triangle. Wow.
How original and never overused.
She's
It's just
not that
solid
complex.
technique. Just solid technique in that it's just emotional manipulation without any kind of deeper meaning, but we're going to dress it up as the Schindler's List of...
Yeah, and if you hear these conversations, 80 to 90% of them, I'd say probably more, is drivel. It's filler.
It's cringe.
It's like, hey, how was your day? Oh, I went to do this. So like, okay, great. How was the dog? The dog was like, okay, that's it. That's the whole thing. The whole game's like that. It's filler. It's long and boring small talk.
The long and boring of us.
Yes. And you get so bored, and it's such a long game that you're just exhausted when you get to the end of it. Like, you identify with Ellie because she's exhausted too. Yeah, by playing a game that sucks and slow and boring and monotonous and murder simulator sim, or whatever you want to call this thing. And she doesn't want to kill anymore because she's sick of it. It's like, oh, I feel for her because I also feel nauseous. It's like, thanks.
I think that's the part of the game that I actually like. Just as an aside, before we close this out, because I think as soon as we reach the end of this statement, I think we can call it a quits for now.
Yep.
But like the good parts of this, the graphics are beautiful. Like just the way that they do distant, like the texture scaling and the model scaling and all of that, and all of the post-processing effects. The facial capture is great. Like all of this interesting stuff. And it's just like this big dumb fanboy writing. It's so inadequate. And then I think that people are having this fatigue effect. And I would say that Neil does one thing really well, which is he's very good at forcing people to have an emotional reaction. So him killing Joel, he knew exactly how people would react to that. And then he was betting on the next 10 or whatever so hours to earn back a certain set of that audience. And then those people would praise him. Some people would just be lost forever. Like, I'm one of those people where it's like, oh, you killed the main character? Interesting how you did that with your franchise. That's kind of dumb. But as an aside, it's just that emotional manipulation to me does not a good game make. It doesn't. The graphics don't save it this time because people have been exposed to this so much that they finally, Joel was something I think that they weren't really expecting either. I think it came out of left field for people too because you have that was the main character of the story. It's like, what's the point of being here if we're not dealing with that? And then after Luke Skywalker, after Star Trek Picard, all of these series of events and having very few positive male characters or outcomes for these characters, even things like Endgame, which with all the depressing stuff in that, I think people just had enough of it, and they're like, you know what, Neil is gonna have all of this flack because he made such an egregious choice, doubled down so much, and it's at the complete wrong time to do that in every way possible. So it's like, the more I think about it, you could make this story work if you really, really tried at it. But why would you? Why side on that? Why not give the people what they want? When was the last time that happened? I mean, I keep seeing it in Japanese material. It's just the West is so nihilistic now for some reason. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's like screwing up with a first date or trying to pick up a girl, and you're like, you screw up so bad. And it's just the absolute worst thing you could have done. And then you're like, oh, wait, I should go fix this. And you try to apologize. You try doing this. You say, I'm going to promise you that. This wasn't me. This was the drinks talking, whatever. You have to get out of your way to help what you've screwed up. And it's like, okay, a guy who's really good at picking up girls could probably recover from that. But sadly, the narrative is not. And you have to use every textbook example, and I don't think Just Right knows exactly what he's talking about in this regard, to showing emotion or sympathy or empathy or whatever technique he's talking about here. Pull at all the stops, as he says, or something. I don't think that's what happened here. I think Druckmann's like, okay, now I gotta show her personal life, and I gotta show her what her day-to-day life is like. So it almost becomes a slice of life event. And you're trying to figure out, well, what is she doing now? And why are we world building with her now? Where are we going with this? And you really have to, like, I think I showed Shiny, I don't know if I showed Shiny in my book, but I talked about a part of the book where it talks about attractiveness. And it's basically, do I like this character?
You mentioned it. Yeah, you mentioned it, but I don't think I've seen it through your book.
Okay, that's fine. The idea was the concept of attractiveness, and you have to do every single thing on this chart, on this column, all these columns, line them all up. So you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Then you think about emotions. Okay, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this. Think about how they look. Got to do like everything has to check, because if you don't hit all those levels, or at least one from each column, someone somewhere is not going to like Abbey. So petting dogs, good start. How far are you going to go with that? Being relationships with friends, good start. How far are you going to? How many relationships? And her relationships aren't perfect. They're not like suddenly amazing. She's not suddenly start being nice and super great and super heroic and give her life to her friends and become the paragon of virtue all of a sudden. Like, you have to do these things, or else she's just scum to you. She's always going to be the murderer you need to kill.
She reminds me a lot of Rey, but like in a very like maxed out stats kind of way. Like, here's a character to come and usurp the franchise.
Plot armor up the ass, exactly.
Yeah. And she comes from like a retcon sort of, and she's a villainous character, but she's really the hero. It's just awful. But the thing that was really enlightening about listening to this, besides the fact that it was a good like starting point for our own conversations, which I found more interesting. But Just Right is really good at nailing what is certain thing. Like, here's a list of little things that I noticed. This is an objective tool. This is what it's used for and all that. But then but he does the same thing that a lot of these people do, where it's like he's giving a lot of credit to the material for that. And that's where our contention is. It's like, are you sure you accomplished by using these tricks what you set out for? Because it seems like it only worked for some people, and most people and a lot of people, I don't know what amount it is, I don't know what percentages, were really upset by it. So maybe this isn't a good example of what you're talking about. Maybe this is one of the worst examples of what you're talking about. And I just find it amazing because it all has this very positive, like, this is why it worked, and you should do it too. Definitely kill your main character in the second movie. It's a good idea.
I think I made a joke about that when I did my Mass Effect 2 analysis for the first time. It's like, you never kill off your hero in the first 10 minutes of your game.
No, it
doesn't work.
And you should have known that. Terminator Dark Fate did that. Like, you gotta stop.
It's an uphill battle unless you're really good at writing stories. You don't know what you're doing. And even then, even an average writer will be like, this is going to be a mess. What am I going to do? Reinvent a hero? Take the place? Build up another one? This is going to take so much time.
And it just makes me go like, talking about melodrama, why not put them in a situation where they have to talk to each other? They don't even have a conversation, really. It's like, you know who I am? I'm here to kill you. Oh, yeah, I guess. Then just kill me then. Like, that was the dialogue. There's no thing where it's like, Abbey, I killed your father because he was gonna kill Ellie, and Ellie's like,
oh, Abbey,
I am your father. There wasn't even a save Martha moment.
Well, except the ending. That was a save Martha moment.
Yeah.
The flashback popped out of nowhere. God just went, boop, time for a flashback. 2 seconds. Martha, what? Why did you say that name? I guess I'll stop strangling you now.
Save Joel.
Yeah, by killing you. Yeah.
Save the dream.
Oh boy. Okay, I think we did very well, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Glib, you were a trooper, and of course, Shiny is a literal trooper. Man, 7 minutes.
Yeah, that was good.
We did pretty good. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. That was a good thing. I always wanted to cover Just Right's takes on what's popular, because I know he's going to do it, and we're gonna listen. We're gonna argue. So thanks for tuning in. We're probably gonna do this the weekend if you guys are free. Tomorrow, I'm quite sure we got something special planned on Glib channel. I don't know, on the Glib show. I don't know if it's happening, but Glib, is it happening? I don't know if you guys are tired for tomorrow, or you're ready.
I think we can shoot for tomorrow. Is gonna do something in the afternoon or evening, but I don't know if everybody's gonna be ready. But we'll keep them posted, I guess.
Yeah, I'll announce it on the channel and on Twitter. But we'll definitely get back to part 2 sometime on the weekend or next week. And we'll definitely keep talking. I'll be working on my video. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. And we'll talk to you really soon. Have yourself a great evening, okay?
Yeah.